So first of all, business model generation. This is what we will be discussing hopefully over the next 1 hour, 50 minutes. I will try to finish in about 1 hour, 40 minutes so that you have about 10 minutes for questions. But the word here is try. And I usually fail at this dismally, but I will try. Okay. So first of all, formally welcome to all, and welcome to the IBA team, IESS 2020 team, who have done such a wonderful job in putting this together. And I think the credit goes to them. So without further ado, what I want everyone to do is, even though I can't see you guys, I want you to get up from your chairs or your beds or wherever you might be residing or sitting down or lying down. And I want you to do these simple stretching exercises, okay? Not all of them, but a few of them. So you see this green circle or green oval appearing. That's the first exercise. So please get up from your chairs, everyone. And I don't mind, I don't care if you disappear from the camera. So the first exercise, basically what you're going to do is put your hands over your head and move your head to the left and move your head to the right. Do that 10 times. Left, right, left.
Sayyid Muhammad, please get up.
Right, left, right. Excellent. Okay. They should get the blood flowing towards your head or towards your brain. So let's sort of stretch those arms now, because you'll be doing some typing. You will be chatting with me. So move your arms backwards, lift them, stretch them, relax, backwards, lift them, stretch them, relax. 3 more times, lift them, stretch them, relax. 4 and 5. Good. Okay, now you can come back to your chairs, sit down. But the activity, the physical activity is not over yet. So just relax. And now lift your right leg, only the lower part, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, guys, finally, same position, but not extending to the front, but moving your leg to the side. So left, move to the side, left, move to the side, left, move to the side. And do the same thing to your left leg, left to the side, left to the side, left to the side, and one more time. Okay, excellent. I think this should have woken some of you up, and hopefully the blood is flowing towards the legs and more importantly towards the head. Excellent. Okay, guys, so this is what I plan to do. So we will start with the anatomy of a business model. Very, very quickly, we will look at a few business models and we will try to extract. We will try to sort of amass what they really say. What is the gist here? What is the summary of all these wonderful business models that have been thrown towards us that we have discussed in our BBA or MBA classes? So after this anatomy or dissection of what is a business model, what are some of the key parts of it, I want to look into the history of business models. Again, very, very quickly, going back about 40, 50 years and coming to the present. And then we will stick to one business model in particular, because there are hundreds of business models and more or less they're the same. And I'll sort of show this to you in a minute or two. So we will choose one, which is called business model canvas. And we will go through it in more detail. And I will tell you why we will choose it. And finally, point 4, we will do an exercise, or you will do an exercise. And this will be our business model canvas application. So we will try to apply it within an entrepreneurial context, and hopefully what we have discussed in terms of the different parts or components of BMC would come alive, and hopefully this should gel your understanding of business model canvas, which I believe is a very practical and a very applicable model. So let's start with the anatomy of a business model. So how many of you have heard about this company called Zipcar, based in New York, US of A? Anyone? Okay,
Write on
Zipcar.
your, on your chat box. I think they can write on the chat box.
I will do that, sorry. I will do that.
Write on the chat box. They will write if they answer.
All right, so the question was, have any of you heard of Zipcar? Well, basically, Zipcar started a new business model. And what they did was, rather than hiring out vehicles on a daily basis, and this is what most car rental companies or vehicle rental companies did, they started hiring them out on hourly basis, on daily basis, on yearly basis, and in some cases, even more long-term contracts, okay? They introduced something called a membership system. So the point I'm making here is, guys, they came up with a new business model. Now here, the term business model, I think some of you already know this, is also used interchangeably with a business plan. And I personally feel there isn't much of a difference. Business model usually is more strategic. It is more market oriented. Whereas when you have a business plan, you have elements of finance in it. Here, maybe in a business model, you have more a diluted treatment of the financial element. And that is one difference which I sort of, see. But anyway, very interchangeable. So Zipcar came up with a new business model. Okay, so let's sort of move on. Let's look at one more example. And I think most of you should be aware of this bank called Grameen Bank, originating from Bangladesh. And it was started by Dr. Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel laureate. So can anyone tell me, again, I will go to the chat box as suggested, what's so special about this Grameen Bank? Anyone? So how is this Grameen Bank maybe different from a conventional bank or what we call a popular retail bank? Absolutely. Arib, spot on. It is a microfinance institution, and absolutely right, Sajwar, it is mostly for the underprivileged. So basically the point here is, yes, absolutely, Huda. Grameen Bank came up with a new business model. Okay, so they basically, as correctly pointed out by the participants, it helped alleviate poverty through micro lending and to the financially challenged. So again, a new business model, something different from the way banking industry was operating. So the question is, what are some of the key components of business models? Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you through 2 decades of business modeling. So we are going to look at 20 years of business modeling and see how it has evolved, or how it has changed, or how it has developed. So let's start with the first model. It is Linder and Cantrell, and start from 2000. And that will make it nice 20 years. So what was in this business model? Okay, so let's sort of do a little bit of dissection. As I said, I'm going to look at the anatomy. So let's sort of try to tear it up a little bit. So what do we have here? The key components are customers. Okay, no surprise. Then obviously you have to sell something. You have to take something to the market. So you have your products. And then how do you take them to the market? You need some sort of a channel. You need a link between the company organization and the user, consumer, or the customer. So that is channel. Obviously, you have to price it. You want to make some money. You want to make some profit. And then you have to finance your business. Okay, you have to have some financial input. You need the money to start a business. So here, if you see Linder and Cantrell, 2000, these sort of 5 components are what making the model. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on with this timeline. And let's go to 2005. Okay, so here I'm talking about Schaffer et al. Did anything change? Do we have an evolution? Do we have something different? Okay, let's do another operation here. Let's do a little bit of, how should I say, dissection. Let's sort of tear it apart. So what do we have? Okay, customers are still here. Well, that's a surprise. Okay, now production. How are we going to create our product? How are we going to assemble our service? So here you have the process. And this process at the end of the day will create value. I'm going to talk about value because it's a very, very important part of any business or any business model. And usually to create value, you have to follow a process. That can be a manufacturing process. That can be a service creation process or something of the similar nature. Okay, obviously, at the end of the day, you follow a process, the outcome should be a product. Now, guys, when I say the word product, that automatically includes a service. So here, product can be tangible or it can be intangible. All right, so it's a generic word I will use for something that we take to the market. Okay, so what do we have after the product? Obviously, we have to take the product to the market. So we have a channel. That's a link between the company and the customer. And finally, finance. So guys, tell me, between 2000 and 2005, as far as models are concerned, is there a substantial change? Is there a substantial evolution? Just give me a quick comment. So 2000, 2005, Linder and Cantrell, Schaffer et al. Key components showed you, key components I'm showing you here. Is there any major difference? Is there a big contrast between the two? Or are we more or less moving on the same trajectory? Okay, process has been added, but that leads to the product. You are absolutely right. Aina, good point. Anyone else? Okay, there was about 10 to 15% difference. Agreed. Good point. Okay, branding differentiation. Okay, fine. Marketing has been more clearly defined. Okay, agreed. Some minor changes. Maybe a different lid, but the same. Wow, agreed. That is a good point. Now, instead of just saying we are selling a product, we are talking about creating value for the customer. Excellent points, guys. Trajectory is the same. So I think more or less we are moving in the same direction, but maybe taking a slightly different route. Excellent, guys. Okay, so let's sort of move on to 2010. Let's see if things have really taken off here. So here I'm talking about, again, a business model. DeMay and DeRidder, 2010. Okay, what are those guys saying? All right, wow, surprise, surprise, the product is still there. Oh, customer is still there. And consumer, yeah, okay, both of them I would like to put the same label here, customer. Oh, channels are there. Wow. Process is here. Okay, excellent. Finance is here. Okay, guys. You get the point. After 10 years, has anything changed substantially? I don't think so. More or less, we are moving in the same direction. Now, another model introduced in 2010, and again, there is not a major difference here. It is, in my view, more of a repackaging issue. So here, 2010, we have Osterwalder coming up. And Osterwalder 2010 comes up with another business model, and he calls it business model canvas. Now, what Osterwalder did was package business modeling in a more efficient and effective manner. So I'll go through the model in a minute and tell you how he has been able to put the whole thing together in a more, in my opinion, market-focused way, more entrepreneurial way, more easy to understand, and getting two key components into the model and focusing on them. All right, so assure you, 2020, things have not changed a lot. Still, we are moving in the same trajectory. Still, we are talking about those 6 to 7 key components, and I'll outline them in a minute. Before I do that, let me very, very quickly tell you what Osterwalder 2010 did in the form of coming up with Business Model Canvas, or BMC. And this is where we are going to focus, hopefully, for the rest of our session. So very cleverly, this is what Osterwalder did. Basically, he said, okay, we create value in the form of a product, and then we share that value with the customer. So basically, what we are doing is two things, okay, as far as a business model is concerned, or as far as a business is concerned. Do not even forget about the model. We create the product, or in my view, a more versatile word here is a more applicable or more practical word here is we create value, and then we pass that value on to the customer. So basically, this is what he did. He divided the model into two parts, and this is what I'm going to sort of show you in a minute. One part, the blue part, is the product. The other part, the orange part, is the customer. And basically, the trading entity here, what is to be exchanged, what is to be shared, is the value or the value proposition in the middle of the model. So here, this 9 variable or 9 component model is about creating a product or creating value and sharing that value with the customer. Simply, this is what Osterwalder is doing in their business model canvas. Okay, so customer, product, and value. And basically, if you look at, I would say, 85 to 90% of the models, moving from 2010 to 2020. These are the 6 areas you will see repeatedly. Okay, so I would say 85 to 90% of models will contain these 6 areas. And these 6 areas are key in creating value for the customer or for the business. Now, we talked about products, and I think you know what products are. We talked about process, and I think one of you very cleverly pointed out that moving from 2000 to 2005, the process was added. This is where you are creating value. Obviously, creating value for the customer, you have to get the value from the company to the customer, and this is where distribution or channels are important. And obviously you need money to start the business. You need that cash injection. Without that, there is no go. The business does not lift off. It does not run. And finally, obviously, you have to manage the organization. So this is where leadership is important. Entrepreneurial acumen is important. Reading the market is important. So this is where hopefully the trust for the business or entrepreneurship is coming from. That is your administration. So guys, the point is, if I summarize, if I distill what I have said in terms of dissecting business models, at the end of the day, this is what you get. These are the 6 key areas. And then you can add things to them, and there is always a little bit of variation. You add a little bit of spice. The curry base is the same. And then you change your flavor. Some of you like turmeric, some of you like coconut milk, some of you might like, ginger. So you basically change the flavor according to your own taste. This is exactly what's happening in the business modeling. Okay, guys, are there any quick questions? Because I know I've been talking a lot. Would any of you want to do any reflection on what have been said so far? You want to add anything before I go on to the next?
Sir, basically I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, so when you talk about that the business models from past to present, there's not having much of a change. But why do we see the changes in business as such when people implement it? We see total different sort of businesses happening, and the way they proceed with stuff is quite different if we compare it to before. The way they approach the markets and everything. If the models are not changing, then where is that theoretical change coming in?
I think it is, you got a valid question there, Diane. I think the changes are happening because the environment in which we are working is changing. For instance, channels are channels, okay? Before, we were using mass media. We were using broadcasting. Now we're using television and so on, okay? But now, if you want to get to the customer, and you have, let's say, a music product, such as a song, rather than selling it in a physical retail shop, what do? You go on
probably go with iTunes and like YouTube and stuff. Okay.
So basically, I think the changes are more environmental. That technology is improving, no doubt about that. And that is sort of creating a lot of possibilities. But in my view, the fundamentals are more or less the same. They may be changing their format, they may be changing their shape or form, but more or less what you're doing is still connecting the customer to the product.
So it's more about incorporating the new channels if you want to be a successful entrepreneur in these times.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to move with the market conditions. You can't get away from that. Technology is coming thick and fast, and you really need to look at that. Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's move on, guys. And let's sort of, again, look at the business model, but this time I'm going to look at more area of business development, moving from past to the present. And what you see under here is the first mobile phone. And let me very, very quickly point to it because I just want to show you, so this is basically the first mobile phone. I don't know how many of you even remember it. You were not born when this was launched. And this is what you are more sort of accustomed to, our smartphone. So this was sort of Motorola Mobira Man weighing about 1.2 kg. And now you have a device which sort of contains a mobile phone, but it is more of an interactive platform containing a mobile phone. So there is a difference between the two. So again, Diane, mobile phone does the same thing. It connects you while you're out of your office or out of your house.
Yes, sir.
The technology has changed. The functionality. Okay. All right. So let's sort of move on. And let's sort of look at this. I want to take you through time machine. Okay. So time machine, basically, let me sort of get rid of these drawings, and then we sort of move on. Okay, and all right. So time machine, let's go on a little journey. Let's sort of go, let's say from present day. First of all, let's go into the past. Let's go 5 years back, further back, further back. Okay, let's go on. Let's go further back. Okay, this is where I want to stop. Anyone who is this gentleman? I know it's a tough question, especially so early in the morning. Okay, this guy has a place in history. Okay, all right, well, I'll share it with you. His name is Chester Carlson. Does that ring any bell? Any idea what he did? Okay. All right, let me sort of open up the chat box if there are any sort of, views, any inputs. Excellent, okay. All right, so this guy used to work for Xerox. Does that ring any bells? Okay, all right, so he was an engineer, technician. Does that ring any bells?
So he basically, what I remember was he built something like electrophotography, stuff like this. Like,
yes, you are in the right ballpark. Absolutely. This is what he did. It's in front of you now. Yeah. That was one of the first photocopiers. Okay. However, interesting thing is, or disappointing for Chester Carlson, that when he came up with the technology, he was not able to sell it. So it was a failed product. My question is, was it a failed product or was it a failed business model?
Sir, it was the failed business model.
Okay, good. So Dayan, why did it fail?
So I guess probably the people at that time weren't aware of the product's use and utilization, and he was unable to channelize it through proper channels and make people know the worth of the product, like what he was building. Because if I build something which is out of the perception of the normal mass of public, they won't buy it and they won't use it. So indirectly your business fails. But you can't say that the service or the product was invalid. It might be invalid for that specific time period.
Absolutely. Okay, you are in the right area. It wasn't the product. It was the way he was trying to take it to the market. Now, all he did was he basically tweaked the business model. Rather than selling it, and it was an expensive product at that time, I'm talking about 1958, okay, and he was asking a reasonable amount of price, which companies were not willing to pay. So what he did was he changed the business model. Instead of selling the product, he started renting the machine, and he started charging pay per copy. So as much as you use, pay for that. Just rent the machine. And voila, within days, his business took off, and the rest is history. Okay, so here, one point is that when you start your business modeling, it's not inevitable, and mostly the usual outcome is that you don't succeed the first time. All right, you have to take a few bashes. You fail a few times, you rethink, you come back to the drawing board, and then ultimately you succeed. And same thing happened with this gentleman. Okay, now let's sort of move on, and I want to sort of take you back into the time machine, and let's start moving back to the present and stop here, 1997. Who are these gentlemen? I think most of you would know them. Anyone would like to share their views with me? Anyone? Who are these two gentlemen? They did something very important. Oh, absolutely. Romesa, apologies if I have pronounced your name incorrectly. That is absolutely right. They created Google. So the gentlemen that we are seeing are Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Okay, so was Google first into the market? Was it the first search engine? No.
No, sir. We had, I guess we had at that time we had Yahoo.
Yeah, absolutely. It was second into the market or third into the market. Okay. Now, what I want you guys to do is compare what happened in 1958 with the photocopier and what happened in 1997 with Google. So what do these two examples have in common? That is the question. What do these two businesses do, which is common? 1958 and after sort of, 40 years, no, 30 years, still they have something in common as far as business modeling is concerned. Okay, so let me have very quick feedback from you guys and then I will move on because I have a fair bit to cover and still I want to talk to you guys. Anyone? So what do these two examples, the photocopier in 1958 and Google in 1997, have in common as far as business modeling is concerned? Okay, guys. All right, so let's sort of have a look at this together. Yeah, okay, technology.
Sir, both were technology oriented.
Okay, fine, technology oriented, but I don't want to look at the technology side. I just want to look at the business side here. But you're right, there were technologies which were maybe slightly ahead of the time, and that is fine. But let's sort of see the business modeling side. First of all, a new product, okay? And they had a business plan in mind. Even though on first contact, that wasn't entirely successful and there had to be a little bit of rehashing and readjusting and then going back into the market. But first of all, new product. And there was a business model. There was a business plan behind it. Secondly, they reinvented the business model. So on first contact with the market, the success wasn't there. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you have to rethink. You have to reinvent. You have to readjust. Now, the third point is, for example, Google, after their first contact with the market, they realized that, hang on, the way search engines are working is inefficient. We can do better. And what we can do is we can sort of, start auctioning off search terms in terms of their alphabetical order. So if your name is A, you will be paying a little bit more. If your name starts with something like Q or P or W, you will be paying a little bit less. So if your name drops, first, when someone sort of starts search, you will pay more. So they were, auctioning off search terms in terms of how they appear. So they were charging for that advantage. And then obviously they started with textualized advertising, rather than pictures, just advertising words. And they were the first ones to sort of crack this market. So they did start something new in terms of, some of you are saying technology, and I'm saying it's more of creating value, but they did that. And the third point, which is even more important, and guys, this is what in my view makes an entrepreneur and a simple person like me, it is that ability to take risk and experiment. Because without this risk-taking ability and experimenting, changing, adapting, facing failure, you don't become an entrepreneur. I think this is one of the main differences. People have knowledge, they have understanding, they know what are the components of doing business. But when it comes to taking risk, facing failure, re-emerging, this is where most of us cannot stand the heat. Okay, so these guys failed, but they bounced back. So they took risks, they experimented, they played with their value proposition, and they came back. Okay, I think I have a hand up. So let me sort of, Uzair, okay. How can I help?
Sir,
Yeah.
can you explain the second point again?
All right, so let me sort of very quickly go back. Second point. Okay, so this is where we are talking about reinventing the business model. So the point is you go into the market with a business model, like what you observed with Xerox 1958. Carlson Chester went into the market with his business model that was sell the machine. Did not work. Okay, people did not buy because they did not have the money. New technology, lot of expenditure on developing it, hence the price tag was high. So, did not work. So what did the gentleman do? What did Chester Carlson do? He went back to the drawing board and he invented a new business model. So rather than selling it, he said, okay, hang on, I won't sell it to you, I will rent it to you. So you pay as much as you use it. So pay as you go. All right, so this is basically where you develop a model and then you reinvent it or you invent a new model. And the point here is, rarely are you successful on the first contact with the market. Yes, there are a few exceptions where you go into the market with your first product and you are bang, you hit the bullseye, but that is rare. I mean, I can talk about this, for instance, people like Jack Ma, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs. Yeah, they are giants of entrepreneurial world, but not many of us know that they have a very extended history of failures. All right, so this, and then the third point sort of clicks in. If you see, you have to take risk. You have to experiment. You know, it is that ability to bounce back, in my view, which makes entrepreneur. Okay, guys, are there any other questions before? I hope that is okay, Uzair?
Yes, sir, it is. Thanks a lot.
Let's move on. Okay, let me sort of very, very quickly ask you to do one thing. I want you individually, not in groups, to come up with a definition of a business model. I don't want any paragraphs. I want you to tell me what is a business model in 2 lines, or even 1 line. In your opinion, what we have discussed so far, what is a business model? Okay, so let's sort of very quickly have this chat for about a few minutes. Look, don't think too much. Whatever comes to your head, share it with us. Okay, so what is a business model? Yeah.
I guess it's something that contains it starts from the vision and mission, then it incorporates the channels, the key stakeholders, and the people who are going to be serving to, the people who are going to be affected by your business. So it's like every sort of this is the whole way or a model in which a business would operate, and which people will be getting affected from them, which will be getting benefits from them. So everything incorporates in a business model. It might be from your sources, your people who will be like your vendors or anything, to it goes till the customers.
Yeah, and this is a bit more than 2 lines, man. Just sort of try to
Sir, may I? May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Basically, I just tried to like minimize it, but you know that's something really broad. When you talk about
You have to try harder.
yeah, I need to try harder. My bad.
All right. Sorry, Uzair. Very, very quickly. I am getting some wonderful definitions here.
Sir, it's a strategy for a certain business about how to be profitable. They first need to identify whether in which sector do they lie, whether it's a primary sector, secondary sector, or a tertiary sector, right?
Okay, sorry, Uzair, I have to cut you off. Sohaira Sheikh, that's a wonderful definition. I absolutely like it. This is where I want to go. It is about creating value and distributing value. Wonderful. Profitability, Uzhair, is very important, but I think I go beyond profitability. When you talk about profitability, it's more about money specific. But nowadays, you got to go beyond money. You really need to bring the customer in, because the customer can do so much for you. If you are a profit-oriented organization, you may miss those contributions. Okay? Yeah, operation process important. Obviously, you can't operate without profit. Not for a minute I'm saying profits are not important, but I think the higher purpose should be value creation. And when you create value, the profits automatically come in. Wow. Okay, Aina, again, yeah, it is a business plan. It is about creating value, and it is about sharing value or distributing value. I think you guys are there. I am happy. I think things are gelling in. Let's move on. Okay, so what you guys have said, I'm going to summarize that. So about how an organization creates, delivers, and captures, can anyone fill in the blank? Fill in the blank. Come on, guys. One word.
So value.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. So Hera, you are quick. And Sajwar, you are quick as well. And Panmada, absolutely bang on. Michelle, absolutely. Yeah, okay, guys, I think you get the point here. And let me sort of move on. The word is value. Yeah, Dayan, very, very quickly.
So you asking me something?
Yeah, I think you wanted to say something. I heard the word.
No, I just said value. I was just filling in the blank.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, value. So how do we create this value? That is where we are going now. So here you see the first glimpse of the BMC, business model canvas. And you can see the 9 components which make this particular business model. So you have the left side and you have the right side. 9 components in total, 4 components related to the customer, which is on your right-hand side when you are facing the screen, and 4 components facing the organization or the business, which is on your left-hand side. So the point is the left-hand side is where the value is created. The right-hand side is where the value is shared or distributed. When you put these 2 main parts together, you have your business model. And in this specific case, you have your business model canvas. 9 blocks. Let's go through that. First of all, who are your customers? Okay, so here you could be focusing on a very small segment, a large segment, or maybe multiple segments. Okay, so for instance, if you want to sell rock salt, you could be targeting the mass market. Or you want to sell almond flavored milk, you could be targeting a huge part of the market. So no surprises here. Or you can go niche. So this is where you have some specialized equipment, you sort of want to run a high altitude skydiving club, for instance, or you want to run a club, extreme mountain biking, something like that, then you have to go niche. Okay, so this is where your focus is tight and you're addressing a smaller part of the market. Or you can even go from niche to micro where you want to sort of, focus on more or less one-to-one relationships. But this is what sort of interests me. This is called segmented approach. And I think here, what you do is you look at a collection of demographics, not just one, but collection. For instance, you have 2 individuals here, the grandma and the Mr. Nice. the young man. So what is the difference here? How do we segment these two different types of customers? For instance, if I start with a young man, what does this young man do in his free time? Well, let me sort of very quickly point out so you know where I am sort of, looking. So this young man in his free time likes to play PlayStation 5 with his friends. So he has a special setup. So what does the granny do, his grandmother do? Does she sort of join in the PlayStation session? No. I think she's a bit old for that. And but some grandmothers may like PlayStation, no offense. This one likes to read a book. So, okay. Further on, how do they communicate, for instance? I'm just going to go through a couple of examples, not the whole thing, just to explain what do I mean by segmented, two different types of customers and their lifestyle. So here, this young man loves to spend time on his mobile phone, texting, chatting, sending pictures, so on and so forth. And I think most of you can associate with this. Grandma still has her landline phone, and she makes her calls. So she uses phone as a phone. Mobile phone, as I said before, is not a mobile phone. It has the feature of a mobile phone, but this is a multi-interactive technological device. You watch your films, you hear your music, you have your bank account details here, you access your bank account, you do everything. You book your flights, a mobile phone. You carry your ticket, electronic wallet, mobile phone. Finally, one more point and then I'll move on. So how this young man entertains himself, when he goes out. So basically, what are his outdoor activities? Oh, he likes to spend time with his friends. So he basically loves to go to some nice restaurants or similar places, hang out with his buddies, and likes to have a, nice sort of, enjoyable time. What about the grandmother? Well, she likes to play bingo, and she likes to join her friends, and they go for a quiet evening where maybe they play picture tombola or something like that. So you see here two individuals, one young chap, maybe 20 to 24-year-old age bracket, one elderly lady, maybe over 60, over 70. And when you look at the different demographics, look at their lifestyle, you see there is a contrast. They are two different customers. So you can segment your market based on lifestyle using what I say, multi-demographic approach. Okay, guys, so that's another more specialist way of segmenting a market. So let's sort of move on, and let me sort of get rid of some of these images, otherwise they will be distracting us. Okay, let me go to annotation and then get rid of this. Undo. Okay, guys, so then let's sort of move on. Okay, now this is a very important part, guys. Listen to this, because this is where we start looking at value creation. How do we approach value creation? In different ways, okay, number of ways. I'm going to discuss about 5 or 6 prime value creation variables, okay? And as you can see, performance, design, brand, price, accessibility, convenience. These are some of those variables which can create value. And these are the key value creators. Very, very quickly, for example, price. And here you can see EasyJet. EasyJet, what does EasyJet do? Very, very quickly, EasyJet is basically what I call a no-frills, low-cost airline. And as you can see, they fly around Europe. That is their main circuit. And they are known for their low cost. I mean, you can get some really, really low price tickets. As you can see, summer is back on, and $29.99 and so on and so forth. I mean, they are very, very cost effective. They don't have any physical retail outlets. They do their business from the website. Before internet days, they used to do telephone selling. All right. So the point here is they basically, okay, sorry, I lost my slides. Let me go back. All right. Okay, so basically they are focused on price. Then you have something of a different value proposition, again in the airline industry, so that give you a contrast, accessibility. How many of you have heard of this company called NetJets? Anyone? NetJets? Okay. The reason I'm saying, have you heard about this, is because some of you may be hearing about this in years to come. MashaAllah, most of you are making your way through a business school. Picture yourself next 10, 15 years, maybe even sooner, you becoming a top shot executive. And what a top shop executive needs is his private jet. Okay, I hope that most of you will be able to afford your own private jet, but if you can't afford your own private jet, you can go to this company, NetJets, and you can hire a private jet. You can timeshare for a private jet. So your company can buy jet time. Okay, so you can say, okay, we need our private jet for 3 days. And then you pay a little bit less. Rather than buying a jet, you have an access to a jet. So just dream about it. Inshallah, one day you'll be doing this. So NetJets is a company which basically gives you access to a private jet. And in America, it's a very, very popular company. Most organizations who cannot afford their own jet, they go and they buy time into a jet, and then they treat their best performing, executives, and maybe the CEO of the company can use the jet whenever he has to attend a more important meeting, and he has to really create, how should I say, a good impression. So that is our NetJets. Okay, so let's sort of move on. And just a second, come on. Okay. So convenience is important as well. Now I want you to say something because I think it has been a lot of sort of chatting from my side. So what value proposition does this product offer? Okay, guys, chatting, go crazy. Tell me. I'm sure most of you will be affording this in the next few years. So why would you buy a Rolex? Excellent. Masoom, absolutely. Brand name. Okay. So why would you buy such a luxurious brand? Status. Yeah. Anna, I think you hit it. Yeah, it is status. I mean, usually when you buy a Rolex, you sort of don't cover your arm sleeves. You keep them exposed. And the whole idea is so people can see and get impressed. Yeah, beauty, fair enough. But at the end of the day, guys, it's all about showing other people that, I've got a very sophisticated, expensive Rolex. Okay, fine. Now let's sort of look at a contrast. Why would you buy a Nano from Tata? We are aware of Nano.
Affordability?
Yeah, absolutely affordability. I mean, it's a very, very low price tag product. One of the cheapest cars in the world, perhaps. Yeah, absolutely. Cheaper. I think this is basically, these guys, Nano, have played a very wonderful strategy. they were able to bring a non-consumer segment into play. They activated a non-consumer. And maybe, yeah, Mushahid Hussain, Musaddiq Hussain. That's efficiency, absolutely. Agreed, Musaddiq. Yeah, it gave you a cool factor, Michelle. Absolutely. I think it became a symbol for young people. Okay, that is good. I like it. All right, let's sort of move on.
Sir, yeah, can we say one thing?
Yeah, go on, Danya. Go on, Dayan. What do you want to say?
Sir, so I was saying was, can we say like this was one step, Tata got one step closer of targeting BOP segment with automobiles?
I think, yes, definitely you can say that. This was basically where you had what I say the middle to low class segment in India who were not able to buy a car from the existing market. And Tata were very quick at spotting that opportunity. So basically, this is, you heard of the disruption strategy, yeah? So where you have even a low-end choice and you can't get into that market, you have to create a new market. And this is where Nano Tata was very good. They were able to fill that particular space in the market. So basically, all these non-users who could not afford a car at that time, they were activated. And as you know, if you have a population of over 1.4 billion, these non-consumers can constitute a huge segment. Okay, there was a hand up. Someone else wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. May I continue?
Yeah, please.
So I think this is another good example of how a good business model trumps a bad business model. I think when the Nano was first introduced, it actually came off as a failure because the tagline associated with it was the world's cheapest car, and no one really wanted to buy a cheap car because that would indicated that it would be a horrible driving experience, and because of the implications that it will do to the environment. So transferring that, instead of giving out the image of a cheaper or an inexpensive car, they actually did something for an image of the whole of India. So they sold the same product with a different style of marketing and different approach to the model altogether. Instead of going after the cheap element, which was the reasoning behind developing the car in the first place, they went on and changed the model and introduced it as with a nationalist aspect to it, which actually made the country look more progressive and more developed as to it was Pele.
Yeah, Reed, you stole my thunder, man. I wanted to say that, but anyway, thank you for filling. Yeah, the point I was going to make here is that, again, a big organization as Tata can get it wrong as well. And as I have said before, and I was going to repeat it, that usually your first business model is not always successful. And you're absolutely right, Reed, they did make that mistake. The marketing approach was seen as derogatory in the sense that it did not befit the image. You're absolutely right. Okay, excellent contribution. Let's move on to the next part. And this is basically your channels. Now, this area of business is going through a revolution, I would say. It is changing. It is changing every day. And the way I look at channels is these are the touch points through which you can connect with your customer, okay? And now, I mean, okay, so you have traditional channels. You have your sales team, you go to the customer. Okay, you have your own stores, your exclusive stores, your premium stores. Okay, these are traditional as well. Then you can have partner stores, okay? A huge supermarket such as Walmart, they have a lot of space, and in that you can sort of create your own retail outlet. So customers coming to Walmart, you can pull them in. Excellent. Again, traditional. This is where there is a huge change. And I think some of you have already highlighted this. Technology, internet as a channel. And that opens number of possibilities. Not only has it opened a number of possibilities, along the way, it has destroyed many companies as well. And the word destroyed, I'm using that very, very responsibly. For instance, music industry, what has happened to it? Huge change because of internet. Where are those record shops? I mean, I remember my young days when I used to go into a music shop and pay something like 9 to 10 pounds for a single song. Well, gone are those days. I think, Dayan, you were saying something about, I just go on to iTunes and I load whatever I love.
Yes, sir.
YouTube and I do the same thing. That is one side of it. Believe you me, mark my words, going forward, the movie business is going to get a big hit as well. And you will have this new model of Netflix. The movie making business will move over to a common person. You will not require a lot of finance to start a movie. It will become a very affordable business. Again, technology will play a major role. Crowdfunding will play a major role. So all these movie houses, Yash Raj and Amir Khan production and all these big boys, I think they're going to have some tough time. If they don't change, they are going to be extinct. This is my view. So internet is a very important channel. It has created many changes in the industry, especially creating those touch points with the consumer. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. How do we establish close links with the customer? How do we establish customer relationships? Okay, there are a number of ways. You can have your key account management practices. You can have, as I said, salespeople going to the customer and, face-to-face relationship development. But I'm going to talk about the specific area, first of all, of self-service. Now, we customers are serving ourselves. This is becoming big. One question to all of you. How many of you have visited your bank over the last 3 years? The physical location, the physical branch of your bank. How many? Exactly, Arif, absolutely. Kodak died, got hammered actually because of digital technology. Totally agree. Okay, last 3 years. Okay, Amin, all right. So never, Dayan, good. Parmada, okay, so last 3 years, okay, some of you, okay. Let me sort of tell you one thing. I mean, this is where I'm trying to sort of come to. Some of you been there, maybe you had a complaint, maybe you did some special service, that's why you went to the bank. I haven't been to my bank for the last 5 years. But I'm doing my banking transactions, and I think you get the point. I don't need to go to the bank. The bank comes to me. Okay, so here, people like me, the bank does not want to know. I am not a profitable customer. I'm a regular salary getting guy. So what they say to me is, you stay out of the bank. Yeah, just go onto your mobile phone and do your banking there. We need to fry bigger fish. Don't waste our time, okay? So most of us are actually falling into that category. We are self-servicing. And just imagine, traditionally where the company used to provide you the service, now you are providing yourself that service. I mean, I do a lot of flying, for instance. I do a lot of business traveling. And what I've noticed is the whole process, booking the ticket, and by the time I'm actually into the plane, I'm managing the whole process myself. Okay, so this self-service is becoming more and more important. Yeah, Muhammad Usman, Osami, go ahead.
So by mistake it was done.
Yeah, what would you like to say? Please, go ahead.
No sir, it was by mistake.
Okay, all right. No worries, Usman. Yeah, take it easy. All right, guys, let's sort of move on. Then coming to you, co-creation. Now, this is what I was referring to earlier on, that you must involve the customer. Because the customer not only gives you profit, it gives you a lot of equity as well. i.e., they add to your business. They give you information, they give you ideas, they give you useful comments, they give you advertising, they give you promotion, they do the marketing for you. So don't look at customer as someone who is going to pay you the money. No, if you use the customer appropriately, there is a lot of co-creation. Let me give you just one example here, which I think all of us are aware of, and this is our wonderful Amazon. All of us use Amazon, or some of us use Amazon. How many of us use Amazon? Just sort of, to get a quick sense of any customers. Yeah, okay, everyone does. Most of us, I think, yes. Sorry, I heard, sir. Dayan, you wanted to say something?
So we don't have Amazon in Pakistan, so probably we can't use it that much.
Okay, sorry to hear that. All right, okay.
So, sir.
Go on.
Sir, I haven't used it, but I'm learning how to sell on it. So I've used it for business sort of purposes.
Oh, you have used it. You haven't bought from it, but you're selling through it. And that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Good, absolutely fine. Okay, guys, the point I wanted to make here was that we do a lot of good to Amazon. In fact, we add a lot of value to Amazon. Now, whenever I buy a book, or I buy some music, or I buy a movie, or I buy some sort of a product, I give them my feedback. I tell them about my experiences. Now, this is very valuable data, guys. When you start looking at that data, you sift through that data, you get ideas, you improve things, you update things, you manage your inventory in a more efficient manner, and you are giving them all this information for free. So you are giving them a lot of equity. So this element of co-creation, where now Microsoft has created a pool of amateur techies, customers who are actually testing their software before it hits the market. So they are getting a lot of value from the customer. So this co-creation, equity, is a very important relationship that you establish with the customer. Okay, now, most of you are interested in profit. You should be. And there are different ways of generating that profit. Okay, I'm just gonna very, very quickly give you a few here. Obviously, you sell the product, price tag. You can have a longer term plan where you have a subscription. You can rent like what Xerox did in 1958. Or you can have a license like Coca-Cola and you give rights for production, or you can have a brokerage fees like most of your credit cards. That, you basically connect the bank with the customer and you take your 2% or 3%. And this is how most of these visas and gold cards and so on and so forth. Now, I want to focus on unique or creative ways of revenue generation. And I'm going to talk about a very well-known company by the name of Hewlett-Packard. Now, 80% of their revenue comes from one particular product. Can anyone name that product? So think about Hewlett-Packard, what they do, and tell me where most of their revenue comes from. Okay, someone said printers. Good. Anyone else? Laptops, okay. No, they did not do that well on laptops. Anyone?
So it comes from printer cartridges?
Wow. Dayan, man, I think you had a very wholesome breakfast today. You're hitting some very sweet notes. Okay. Yeah, our friend Dayan has cracked it. Printer cartridges. Let me sort of share one more news with you. When HP sells their printers, they don't make a profit on them. In fact, they only recover their cost. The profit comes when you start using their cartridges. And this is where they fleece you. Once you buy about 15 to 20 cartridges, you have already paid for the printer. So whatever you buy after that, it is pure profit. This is a unique way of generating revenue. Very clever. It is like that sweet pill that you take. You don't know you're paying the money, and yet you are paying the money. Okay, the next component that I want to discuss, business model related, is obviously when you have to put a business together, you need resources. Okay, so in order for you to generate value, you need resources, you need equipment, you need knowledge, you need workers, so on and so forth. So very, very quickly, again, more for academic purposes, if I look at the key resources that any business needs for creating value, there are three areas here. Okay, Javeria, go on. What would you like to say? Javeria? Mistake? Okay, if you want to sort of come back, you can do that later. I sort of saw your hand up, Javeria, Arshad. Okay, so key resources. Now, not spending a lot of time here, three main areas. Either you have a physical business, like your supermarket. So you have your products, you are retailing them, you have your margins, you need a lot of space, you need a lot of staff, you need equipment, cash registers, and so on. Or you can be intellectual business such as Microsoft. You have your program developers, you have your software developers, you have your techies, and they are your key resource. Or you can be a pharmaceutical company like Pfizer. Now this is where you need human talent, you need scientists, you need someone who is good with chemistry, or someone who is good with biology. You need passionate people, you need PhDs, okay? So generally three types. And most businesses actually utilize all the three types, but their balance or their ratio changes. Now, the next sort of thing I want to look at, what do you do with those resources? What key activities does a business perform when they are creating value? Okay, again, very, very generic slide. Obviously, you need production facility. If you are a car company, such as Tesla, or Toyota, or Honda, obviously you need a whole production line. Okay, you need technology, you need assembly, you need all those physical setups. Then if you are a consulting, such as McKinsey or Pricewaterhouse, you need knowledge, you need experts, you need consultants, those who can solve problems, those who can address problems. So here again, you're talking about human talent. Or you can be a company such as American Express or Visa or MasterCard, and all you do is you act as an intermediary. You're a platform. You connect to organizations, or you connect to entities, buyer and the seller, and that is your key activity. These are the main formats. Further on, key partnerships. So how do I talk to my customers? How do I form partnerships in creating value? If I have any missing talent or missing resource, how can I plug that gap? Now, again, as far as key partnerships are concerned, I'm going to talk about three main areas. Again, very, very quickly, because again, this is a very generic slide. So basically, let's say I am Qatar Airways, and I want to extend my route from here to Far East. And I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough aeroplanes to go as deep as that. But I need wider access into the market. So what do? I have something called a strategic alliance. So I code share. I become partnership, or I form partnership with other organizations, such as Malaysian Airways, and they give me access to the Far East market. Secondly, let's say I want to create a joint venture, i.e., I want to move into a new product area, new market area, and I'm not so sure if I have the right resources, knowledge, or expertise. So in that case, what I do is I find a suitable partner and I create a joint venture, i.e., I create a new company. So sometimes that company is successful, sometimes it's not. Like Fujitsu Simons wasn't a very successful joint venture. They sold computers for a few years and then they went belly up. On the other hand, Sony Ericsson was a little bit more sustainable. But again, when iPhone came in, most of those brands also went belly up. But GSK, which went through multiple joint venture exercises, was very successful. And then you have something more simpler, which I call a buyer-supplier relationship. So this is where you deal with a partner and they become very important part of your business. An example here is Starbucks coffee. Now, Starbucks coffee has a very important partner in the form of Green Mountain. Now, what Green Mountain does is they roast coffee beans for Starbucks. They are master roasters. Now, just imagine if you are a coffee house selling coffee, the flavor of your coffee, the taste of your coffee depends on how the beans are roasted. If you get that wrong, the coffee taste is destroyed. The coffee flavor is destroyed. So this is a very important partnership. And in this case, this is a very important buyer-supplier relationship. And I think Starbucks have been working with Green Mountain for the last 30 years. They haven't changed their coffee roasters. So these are the three key partnerships that you involve when you're doing your, okay. Now we're coming to the end of the component, and I know I have been lecturing. Now just hang on for 2 more minutes and then you will get opportunity to sort of get your hands dirty. You will be involved in an activity. I would like you to sort of, do something in the form of application. I'll give you a scenario and then we will sort of start practicing with using the business model canvas. So before that, the last component I think is a cost structure. Now here are two possibilities. You want to be cost driven or do you want to be value driven? Do you want to take the high road or you want to take the low road? So this is basically what I call the low road. Low road doesn't mean bad, doesn't mean negative. All it means is that you're cost driven. Okay, you want to be cost efficient. So AirAsia is one of the best budget airlines in the world. They serve the Far East sector. And they really come up with some fantastic offers. Now, the problem is when you travel AirAsia, you have to pack your own lunch or your own dinner. You have to buy food. And believe you me, the price of the food on board is something like half the ticket price that you pay. So this is where they make their money. So they will sell a cup of coffee for something like $3. Okay? So they don't give you any food. I mean, I was wondering if they have a standing class. If you don't want to take a seat and you want to go standing, maybe they will add something like that to their, existing product portfolio. On the other hand, you have another airline, one of the best airlines in the world, value driven, which basically gives you fresh food prepared on board by their special chefs. They give you gourmet meals while you're flying, freshly prepared. But then they tax you for that. You have to pay a substantial amount when you travel Singapore Airlines. So both airlines, both in air travel, but very different cost structures. One, which is cost driven, cost efficient. Other, which is value driven, gives you all the luxuries while you are flying, all the comforts, but they charge you for it. Okay, guys. So this is what we have discussed. We've been through these 9 areas. So we sort of started from customer segment, then we went to channels, then customer relationships, then value proposition or offer, And then how do we generate revenue different ways and key activities? How do we sort of, do intellectual activity, physical activity, so on, and key resources in terms of, okay, you need people, you need knowledge, you need, physical resources. And then we went to partnerships and I discussed 3 types, and then finally cost structure in terms of whether you want to take the high road or the low road. Now, let me sum all of this up in a video. So please pay attention because this is the summary. And then after this, we will start our last sort of, 15, 20 minutes. I want you to do an activity with me. So just pay attention. Let's start the video.
An organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model.
Sir, excuse me. We can't see the video.
Okay, just a minute, guys, just a minute. I think.
Sir, the video is not on and the voice is also.
Okay, let me sort of try it again.
For which you're creating value.
Let me try again. So most of you can't see the video, yeah?
No, sir.
All right, I think I need to share the actual YouTube. Let's try it this way.
I guess you have shared the presentation.
Sir,
with
you
us,
can
so
share,
you need to share the other window with us.
Yeah,
need to
you
go to
can share the
share
screen
screen.
again.
Okay, let's try
Yeah,
that.
you have to share it again.
Okay, just give me a minute, guys. Let me sort of restart. Okay, can you guys see it now?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Sir, I think you need to share the whole screen again.
Value proposition for each segment.
Just a minute. Full screen again.
Yeah. Yeah, process repeat kar le, exactly.
MashaAllah, sir, wonderful things going on. I'm learning a lot. MashaAllah, Dain Khan asking very good questions and many other people.
What about now, guys?
No, sir.
I can see that. Can you see?
Sir,
We can see the screen, but we can't see it moving.
Yeah.
For each segment.
Dr. Shahid,
Sir, you can share the
Now?
link.
Customer
Sir, if it's on YouTube, you can share the link as well. Maybe.
चलें अभी दोबारा करें सर दोबारा करें अभी दोबारा स्टार्ट
Okay,
करें
let me try it once more.
generate, the
Let
key
me try it
resources
once
and
more.
key activities you require to create value.
Let me try it once more, guys.
Yeah, try once more sir try once more Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Let me go back. And here's screen.
Diane, can you mute
This
yourself,
time I
please?
think I'm going to try to do it through, as you guys said, YouTube. All right, I have like 3 options here: whiteboard, slides, session slides. Okay, let me try. Okay, guys, let's see if this one works. Can you see it?
No, sir.
No, sir.
You can run it from YouTube directly if you want.
Okay.
सर YouTube से directly run कर लें. Just open it and
Okay, I will try that.
just use it from YouTube. Direct
Okay. Okay, let me run it direct from YouTube, then I can come back to the slides. Just give me a second, guys.
Dr. Shahid Saab, can you make me co-host because I had some electricity problems, so.
Okay, sir. Haskell.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities.
Okay, guys, so let's sort of try this now. Okay, so let's give it another go. Running it straight from the YouTube. Inshallah, this should work. All right, guys, here we go. Can see it now?
Yes, sir.
Can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, the tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. The customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. The key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. The key partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. And once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
Okay, guys, so you've seen the video. Let's have some action now. Let's go back. And now it's your time. You guys are going to do a little bit of, let me sort of share the slides with you. Thinking and a real example. So let's sort of apply. Sorry. Okay, so let's share the slides. All right, so let's apply. So the question is, do you want to tackle a big issue? So what's your answer? You want to tackle the big issue? All right, I take that as a yes. The big issue is access to proper sanitation. Now, the unfortunate situation still is that 2.6 billion people lack access to a particular facility, which is a very important part of our life. Can anyone tell me what is that facility that 2.6 billion people lack access to?
Sir, education.
Good, right. But I'm thinking about something else here.
Clean water.
Yeah, go on. I've given you a quick glimpse. I'm trying to sort of activate. Okay, sorry. All right. Anyone? Okay. Internet? No.
Toiletries.
Healthcare? Oh, who said toiletries?
I did.
Okay, Muhammad, I think you are in the light. Clean water, yes, that's an important issue. Healthcare is an important issue. They're all very important issues. What I am sort of talking about, or what you guys are going to look at from the protein deficiency, Mohsin, yeah. Basically, we are going to look at something which is very important for all of us, and 2.6 billion people lack access to it, is a simple latrine or toilet. So you can see the demographic here. 4 out of 10 people in the world lack this simple facility. Now you're a social entrepreneur. Put your hat on. How are you going to address this issue through business model? How are you?
Sir, we can't see the slides.
So we can't see the slide, we can only see the folder.
Let me share very, very quickly. Sorry about the problem. Okay.
Reshare the screen, sir. Okay.
Now you can see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so here basically a product that you see in front of you called pee-poo has solved the problem. The product is here. So 2.6 billion people just got their toilet. However, that product has to be taken into the market. You have to create a business plan. You have to create a business model. So let me first of all introduce the product to you so that you know what you are dealing with. And let's hope this one works. Okay, so basically, can you see what's in front of you? The website?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a quick introduction. This is basically the website called pee-poo. You can use it. You can go to the website, you can get more information, and you can see some of the stats. You can read about the product, how it works, and what the organization does. So basically, it's a worldwide organization which is taking this around pee-poo product to different people, underprivileged, slums, refugee camps, and they are sort of distributing it. People are using it, and then you can do something with it. And this is where I want you to come in. Okay, so let's sort of go back. And I want to show you a little clip before I give you the control in terms of coming up with the outline of a business model that you have this product. You have to take it into the market as a social entrepreneur. How are you going to generate revenues? How are you going to create value? And how will you develop this market based around this product called pee-poo? Okay, so that's sort of one more slide. I want to show you what pee-poo is so that you understand the product dynamics. And then we will sort of crack on with the business model. I'm going to give you some questions to look at. I'm not going to give you a whole business model sort of, building sort of, how should I say, approach here. But let's sort of look at the product first, and then I'll explain the rest. Okay, guys, pee-poo.
More than 40% of the world's population don't have a toilet. More than 1 billion of these people live in rapidly growing slums where it's impossible to plan or build any sanitary infrastructure. Human excrement contains dangerous, often lethal pathogens that pollute the environment. One child dies every 15 seconds due to contaminated water. This makes the lack of toilets one of the world's most serious problems. Can there really be a quick and feasible solution to this difficult problem? We believe so. It's called the pee-poo. The pee-poo is a personal single-use toilet in the form of a small bag that's easy to carry and easy to use. It can be used anywhere and is designed to be affordable even to those with the weakest purchasing power in the world. This small toilet acts as a micro-treatment plant that sanitizes the human excreta shortly after defecation, thereby preventing the feces from contaminating the environment. This means the pee-poo bag has the potential to improve the health, safety, privacy, and hygiene for millions of people with immense benefits for society. But that's not all. The innovative pee-poo bag is made of degradable bioplastic, and since all pathogens are inactivated, the feces turn into valuable fertilizer with a high market value. Since it requires no infrastructure and no investment costs, it's more advantageous than other sanitation solutions for the world's less developed countries. And it's already available. So let's take on one of the world's biggest challenges.
Okay, guys, are you ready to take on the challenge? All right. So let me summarize what the product is. It's a single-use toilet bag, self-sanitizing, it's biodegradable, turns into fertilizer, main target are poor people, and the production cost is very low. Okay, now, these are the questions I really want you to look at when you are putting a business model canvas together, and at least an outline. I don't want, obviously I don't expect to see a fully blown, well-tested, but some sort of an outline, a sketch. So these are the trigger questions. First, which segment or segments should you address? Okay, I want you to identify where your market is, who your customers are. Second, different ways to generate revenue streams. Okay, how can you use the bag? How can you use the final product to generate revenue streams? Think about that. How can you get the bag to the customer, to the consumer? How can you create the touch points? How can the potential customer access the product? So which different channels can you create to distribute, to get the bag to the end user? And also to the customer. So remember, guys, end user, customer could be two different parties here. And that is the point. Who could be interested in the bag beside the end user? These are the groups, the organizations, or even the businesses who could be the end user. So once you have the bag turned into a product, who could be the end user? And very, very important, who could be the strategic partners that can help you leverage your business model, that can help you take the product into the market, sell the product, or even buy the product? So who else should come on board? Very, very important. So guys, you have the business model in front of you. I'm gonna go quiet for the next about at least 5 to 6 minutes. And I want you to think about those 6 questions that I've just shown you. And I want you to start talking, or at least start putting things into the relevant boxes. And the last sort of 5, 6 minutes, we will have a discussion or concluding discussion. Okay, I will be on the chat box. If you have any questions, you can ask me. And if appropriate, I will answer them. Okay, so go ahead.
Sir?
Yeah.
So in the video, it said that it has low investment costs and very low production costs. So what if the targets, some individuals or some groups from the target segment come up and they are financed through microfinanced banks, like our key partners would be microfinance banks who finance them, who actually end up serving their own community. Does that make sense?
That's absolutely fine. Now, I mean, I will go even as far as saying that you get the bag for free. Okay. Now, what are you going to do with it? But what you have said is absolutely fine. You know, if you want to sort of, how should I say, launch it in a particular community through microfinance, that's absolutely fine as well. No worries. You can have some assumptions where it can be low cost or it can be free of cost.
So in my head, let's say we're the major providers of people, and our channel runs through, we sell it to other businesses, and these other businesses are run by individuals that are from the target segment themselves. So the reason is that they would be better able to serve their communities in that way. And these businesses are also set up through microfinance banks. So it is a long chain that actually ends up from us to other businesses that are financed through microfinance institutions, and those that end up serving their communities later. So it's like a 1, 2, and 3 thing: us to other businesses, and them, they to consumers.
Absolutely.
So the people are serving themselves.
Yeah. I mean, this is more of a community model. That's absolutely fine, combining both business to business and business to consumer channels. Yeah, pad it up. Give me a little bit more information. That's absolutely fine. I mean, there are many ways of approaching this model. Yeah, someone is talking about, Mushtaq is talking about social corporate responsibility. Absolutely. I mean, guys, this is amazing. That bag is a blank canvas. It can be used for branding organizations. It can be used for advertising. Use that space. Good. All right. Any more sharp ideas? Yeah, Romessa, yes. This is absolutely one business line that you can take. You can go to the farmers, but I would suggest, rather than going to the farmers, look at closer avenues. Look at urban areas, look at rooftop gardens, look at nurseries. They need fertilizer, something like this, where you sort of promote this message. You're trying to help the community, not only by tackling the issue of sanitation, but at the same time, you're using that product to promote environmental sustainability, green environment. Then it will cut both ways. You are packing one idea into different directions. So Romessa, yeah, absolutely, good idea. All right, that's a wonderful idea, Sajwar. I agree with you. You need to bring on some strategic partners. Those can be NGOs, those can be governmental organizations. Now, one key point is, how are you going to get this bag out to different end users? Is anyone thinking about that? Yes, backpackers, people who travel, even I would go as far as army, who has to go and do this sort of, operations away from the cities into the, how should I say, areas without any proper sanitation. You can sell it to them. Backpackers, people, hikers, who, maybe they can use it as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, SOS Toilet, that's a nice name, like it. Okay, so train stations, fine. I think here, if you want to make it a community product, Romessa, you can use Shared spaces such as schools, dispensaries, even mosques. You can create some boxes there. From there, these can be distributed. So I absolutely agree with you that those could be good touch points. All right, so you have talked about the touch points. Can anyone give an idea of how you will collect them back? And how would you deal with the stigma which may be around the product? Oh, it's not clean, or it's a dirty product. Michelle, yes, charities, NGOs, definitely you can get them involved. I mean, for example, if you were to do this in Karachi, you have so many NGOs which can be very helpful. You can push the product through them. Okay, so can anyone tell me a little bit about the value proposition here? You've talked about customers, you've talked about channels, you've talked about revenue streams, you have talked about customer relationships as well. But what's the value here? Can anyone talk about the value? So what value are you giving? Oh, yes. Nazreen, yes. Clean environment. Absolutely. Okay, so I've been getting this message that I have to close the session in the next 2 minutes. So I think, yeah, hygiene, absolutely. Remember, guys, if you have a clean environment, the healthcare bill will go down. So you will be saving a lot of money. So less diseases, less expenditure. So more money to spend on other projects. Anything else in terms of value proposition? Okay, fine. So we talked about the key partners. I said cost structure, as Reeb said, it can be a community-based model. It can be microfinanced. You can have sponsorships from organizations if you put their logo on the bag. So there are different ways of sort of doing that. Key activities, you have to get the bag to the end user. Absolutely. And key resources here is you have a bag, you have to create different avenues of getting that bag out. You can use, government organizations, you can use NGOs, you need that physical space. You may need a hub, sort of a back room where you collect these bags before they go out to the, to the customer. So you need those sort of, maybe you need some helpers, you need volunteers. Yeah, okay. Key partners, anyone want to say something about the key partners before I close the session? 1 minute. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Isha, that we have a fertilizer bag. So we started with a people bag, and now we have a product which is a fertilizer. So now think of it as a fertilizer. It's a natural fertilizer. It's a biodegradable fertilizer. Absolutely. So you can sell it to nurseries, you can sell it to rooftop gardens, you can sell it to individuals, you can use it in small quantities. These are small bags. You can sell one bag, you can sell multiple bags. Okay, guys, I think I need to stop. Are there any final quick questions? No? Okay, I think you had enough. 2 hours.
Zarish, do you have any announcement?
All right, guys, the last slide. Thank you very much. Stay safe. And I will see you later on, inshallah, in 2 hours' time. Okay, Asghar Saab, do you want to get in?
So the session restarts at 1 o'clock Pakistan time. So it's already 12:56 here. So we can go for a break for 15 minutes and restart it.
Okay, excellent. And if I'm not mistaken, okay, so that's customer needs analysis, the next session, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, inshallah. Then see you in about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, class, you can have a 10 minutes break from
framework, and I'm going to talk about a particular framework that I find quite useful. I'm going to start gently, and I'm going to welcome you back. And I understand that it has been a busy morning for you and afternoon. Stick with me, inshallah. I'll try to go through it as gently as possibly. So what I think we need to do is we need to activate ourselves before we sort of, go into the intellectual sort of area. So let's sort of do a little bit of physical activity. So can I request everyone who is watching, who is listening, to just stand up next to the chair, next to the table, wherever you are, next to the bed. And this is what we are going to do. So basically, let's start with the first exercise, which is just stand still, hands to the side, and then tilt your head as far as it goes to the left, raise your arm, do the same to the right, raise your arm. So do this 4 or 5 times so that our back region is a little bit more flexible. It gets a little bit of movement. Sitting down, sitting rigid is not good for the back or the front. So, okay, 4 or 5 times. Excellent. Let's move on. Now, this is a little bit more tricky, so be careful. I don't want anyone sort of, pulling their hamstring or doing their back end. So this is where you sort of, go back a little, create a little bit of space between you and the table, put one hand on the table, the legs firmly planted on the ground, and then lift your right leg. And then just sort of pull it up as far as it will go. So you're basically stretching your leg. And you are sort of at the same time, sort of, exercising your arm. Keep the pressure. Do it for about 3 or 4 seconds. Okay, gently put the leg back on, lift the other leg and do the same thing. Keep the movement. Now this time with your left leg. Pull it up. Exercise your arm, stretch your leg. Excellent. Okay, let's move on to the third one. This is a little bit more simple. Just you bring your arm up here, the other one, move it. Move it. So don't do a semicircle. Straight arm, semicircle. Swivel. All right, and do the same thing to the other side. Swivel, swivel. Okay, so do a little bit of gyration. Put your hip into it. Excellent. And then finally, all right, again, be careful. Don't want anyone pulling their hamstrings. So this time just sort of separate your legs, okay, as far as they can go, but not too far, please. I don't want anyone pulling any of their muscles. And one hand on the chair, other one sort of goes back. So it's like, that Shah Rukh Khan movement, but with your legs apart. So again, you're stretching your arms, you're stretching your legs, blood flowing, and it's like a Shah Rukh Khan movement. Imagine, you singing on top of a Suez Alpine and, anyway, all right, you can imagine whatever you want to. Okay, do the same thing, the other side, all right? So if you want to move the chair, you do that, spread your arms and go to the other side. I don't know whether you can see me or not. Okay, enough exercise. I hope that has activated, that has sort of, warmed up your muscles. Let's move on. Let's look at the session plan. Okay, so what I'm going to do essentially in this customer needs analysis session is I'm going to go through the 7 steps, which hopefully will help you to understand, to extract, and to plot customer needs. So this is a fairly logical session where I am doing a little bit of mathematics, a little bit of analytics to come up with what I call an opportunity landscape in step 7. That is the outcome of the customer needs analysis. And hopefully, the point is, by the end of this session, you should be able to come up with opportunities, i.e. serviceable needs which have potential to generate profit. Okay? So this 7-step process, I'm going to go through one by one with examples. And hopefully by the end of the session, you should have a scheme, a plan in your mind. And there are many of these out there. There are a number of ways you can capture customer needs. This is one of the strategy or a strategic plan that you can use. Okay, so let's sort of dive into it right away. By the way, I'll be sipping my tea, as we go along, so please don't mind the little bit of a noise. 11 o'clock is tea time. Okay, so this is 7 steps of customer-focused, job-based approach. So basically, this customer needs analysis framework that we are going to discuss, it has 7 steps. And the specific name of this particular approach or this particular framework is job-based approach. Okay, so let's start with step 1. So what is step 1? Okay, so step 1 is what I say a typical market research action. That what you do is you focus on the customer and basically you do what I call interviews with them. Now, these interviews are a little bit different from normal interviews because they are observational interviews, i.e., you observe the customer in order to understand what their needs are. Okay, so what do you observe? Well, what you observe is the job that a customer is performing and their needs in terms of doing that job successfully. So what you do in step 1 is you do number of interviews, observational interviews, so that you can understand what customer is doing and what their possible needs are. So at the end of the day, when you have done many of these observational interviews, and usually depending on the nature of the product, the importance of the product, these interviews can run into hundreds or even thousands. So it's not like one interview and you're sort of, on to the sort of your job map and you're on to customer needs. No, you have to collect a lot of data here through your observational interviews. So at the end of the day, the idea here is that you want to do these interviews, observational interviews, observing customers doing the job so that you can create a job map. And then hopefully through that job map, you're able to understand their needs. And I'll talk about that in a minute. My first question to you guys is, and it's a question that, is very important question, initial question. My question to you is, what type of customers should be interviewed? Who should you be interviewing when you are trying to put together a job map? Or at least you're trying to understand the outline of this job map by understanding the job which a customer wants to do. So what type of customer should be interviewed? Anyone? Okay, good. Someone is saying new customers. Isha, okay, that's a fair attempt. Okay, anyone?
Sir, the one who shows any sort of interest in our product.
Absolutely, Ozat. This is where you have to go. Interest, yes. But more importantly, these are the customers who are experienced in doing that job. These are the customers who are experienced in, for example, using a particular product or a process that you want to observe. So these are the customers who have the knowledge, who have the experience, who have some sort of know-how. So remember, you start with the customer who is already doing the job, who is using the product, or who is using the process or is familiar with the process. Now, one thing that we must understand before I move on is this idea of what I call the job. What is a job? What do I mean by the job? So before I move on, I want to clarify what is job. And it's a very important point here. In order to understand the customer needs, you have to understand the relevance, the concept of job. Okay, so what is a job? So here the job is not 9 to 5, what you do, I do to earn our bread. Okay, that's a job as well, very important job. But here job means task or activity that the customer is trying to get done by hiring a product. Okay, yes, Nazreen, that's a good point. Customer is hiring a product to do a job. Absolutely right. Now, let me give you an example to clarify this. There are hundreds and hundreds of examples. For example, we are doing all this teaching and training, and you're sitting here, IESS 2020, listening to people like me and many of my colleagues. So this training, usually when the days were good and there was no COVID-19, I used to come to the wonderful CED, IBA, enjoy their, Sindhi biryani, and at the same time, do face-to-face training or face-to-face teaching. And I absolutely love that. I'm a traditionalist, you can call me it. But now the same job is being done using online technology. So here I am sitting in Doha in my so-called sort of, feebly furnished office and talking to you guys through internet. So in one case, the job was done face-to-face, where I was, talking to wonderful people like you, smiley faces. And now here I am doing the same job using my laptop with an internet connection and talking to you remotely. Okay, so we are hiring products to do a job. That is the concept of job. Okay, so job is basically the task or the activity that we want to get done by hiring a product. Okay, now there are different types of jobs that we want done. Okay, and I'm going to break the types of jobs into two main categories. One, which is more obvious, more sort of, watchable, can be analyzed, you can sort of look at it, can be observed, and that is functional job. And these are the practical tasks that we want done by hiring a product. For example, washing machine. Why do we hire a washing machine? Because we want to wear clean clothes. We want to remove those stains. We want to remove the sweat from the clothes. So we want them clean. Why would you hire an iron? Why would you hire a car? Okay, so there are practical tasks that we want done. I mean, I can sort of go on and ask you, okay, why do you hire a mobile phone? And you can come up with 1,001 jobs which we want done. Now, the second level or second type of job is a little bit more intrinsic and at the same time difficult to assess, observe, or detect. And here I'm talking about emotional jobs. Now, let me say one thing here. Even though emotional jobs are difficult to detect, but they are the key reasons. They are the core reasons why we hire products. So essentially what I'm saying here, guys, is that emotional jobs are more important than functional jobs, but they're very difficult to detect. Once you have detected or isolated emotional jobs, the customer is going nowhere. Once you get into their psyche, you tap into their feelings, or sentiments, they are locked in. They cannot escape. But the problem is emotional jobs are not that easy to figure out. Okay, so that basically means me being a lazy person, we are going to focus on functional jobs. Okay, IT is getting cold, but anyway, functional jobs. So let's focus on the functional jobs. Something which is easy to observe, easy to detect because you can see it, it's practical, easy to measure, easy to capture. So let's sort of start focusing on functional jobs from here onwards and how we can use functional jobs to understand, to capture, or to assess customer needs. Okay. All right, so here you have a wonderful mobile phone, a little bit dated, but still nevertheless wonderful. So tell me, what jobs would you like this mobile phone or a smartphone? I will come to that, Isha. I will give you examples of emotional jobs. Just hang on for a couple of minutes, all in good time. Okay, so tell me, smartphone, what functional jobs? At this point in time, forget about the emotional side. I will come back to that. So tell me, what functional jobs do you want your smartphone to do for you?
Sir,
Romesa, that is wonderful. It is a portable computer. I totally agree with you. Yes, that is one, Aina. Phone calls are just one functional job. What else? I'm sure you can come up with quite a few functional jobs. Yes, absolutely, Huda. Photos, cameras are becoming more popular than phone calls. Access to internet, absolutely. Okay, so I am going to define these jobs. Battery life, yes, that's a function, absolutely. I'm going to define the functional job in a particular way, in a standardized way, because remember, I'm giving you a framework. I'm giving you sort of a model to assess customer needs. So here, I'm going to have to standardize certain things. So here, when I'm going to look at functional jobs, and this is going to become more apparent as we move through the session, I'm going to define them in a certain way. So for instance, the functional jobs, I'm going to define them in a statement which will start with either maximize or minimize, and I'll tell you the reason why. So for instance, one job that I want to do, or want done through my mobile phone is minimize the time to look up for a number. If I want to go through directory and search a particular contact, I want to do that in like 1/10 of a second, minimize time. Or sometimes, and this has happened to me so many times, WhatsApp, someone calls me in the middle of the night, 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I pick up the phone, hello, and they say, oh, sorry, the finger slipped. Oh, I dialed accidentally, sorry. And I said, okay, fine, but please make sure these accidents don't happen too often. So we want to minimize accidental dialing. That's another job. Or one of you said battery life. Yes, we want a phone with a battery life of 2 years. We don't want the battery to run out every other day, especially when we are, doing a lot of use. We are, heavy users, or, you're watching movies or things like that. And some of you, or one of you, Romesa, mentioned camera. And camera is becoming a very important part of mobile phone. I mean, it has destroyed literally the traditional photography industry. I mean, someone was talking about Kodak being blown out of the water because of a digital camera. And this is exactly where we are going. And now I think companies are really focusing on cameras in mobile phones. And they are really trying to maximize number of their features, including their resolution. I mean, the pictures, Apple claims these are the best, and Huawei claims these are the best. I mean, I'm not a techno-savvy person. As long as it's a picture where I can see my face clearly, I'm okay with it. So basically, this is what we mean by functional jobs. And here, in this particular job-focused approach or model, we are going to define functional jobs in a particular standardized way. So start getting used to it. I'm going to talk about this in more detail. Okay, so functional jobs. All right, so there was one question about emotionality. So what are emotional jobs? Can you give me an example of an emotional job? Okay, before I do that, I think we are very accustomed to this pin that you see in front of you. I'm going to go a little radical in it. Can you tell me what's the functional job of Red Bull? Anyone? Energy booster, energy booster. Okay, excellent. Energy. Okay, energy boosting in what sort of circumstance? Isha, I think you asked a question. Wonderful. It keeps us awake. It gives you wings. You've been watching too much television, and yeah, I don't know if it gives you wings, but it makes your head buzz, and then you're awake. Let me sort of share a little secret with you. You know, most of the times when I sort of visit IBA, either CED or CEE, you know, I have to take night flight because there is no day flight to Karachi, unfortunately. So I'm landing at like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and by the time I get to my sort of, you know, accommodation, it's about 4 o'clock. And then I have to start a session at about 9 o'clock, and I have like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. So what I do is I always take, Nazreen, that's another side to it. You're absolutely right. It is full of preservatives and chemicals and such other wonderful stuff. But okay, let's sort of focus on what we've just said. It keeps you awake. So I've always taken a tin with me, but so far, alhamdulillah, I've never opened a Red Bull. So usually what I end up doing is I end up giving it to the students who are sort of in the session, and you know, they're always waiting for their Red Bull. So the functional job, I think you're absolutely right, keeps you awake, you know, puts caffeine into your system, so you are buzzing. And yes, I agree, it destroys health, it destroys teeth. Those are the other sides. Now, let me ask you this question in a slightly different way. Are there any emotional jobs that Red Bull does? Anyone? Whether it keeps you awake or gives you energy, that is again something, you know, if someone pumps you full of sugar and caffeine, the chances are that you will keep awake. That's why you don't give any, fast or these carbonated drinks to children after 8 o'clock at night or even 7 o'clock at night. So they don't sort of, you know, keep jumping and, you know, they're all sort of, you are trying to put them to bed and they are sort of, you know, 6 foot up in the air. Okay, now, how many of you would relate to something called the cool factor? Okay, this is where if a person from a peer group does something, others more or less follow. So in order to look cool, oh, you know what? The day before yesterday, I was totally smashed out of my skull. I had to have 3 Red Bulls before I could even see where I was going. That is an emotional job. Yes, Aina, absolutely right. Smoking and stuff like that, where you have to fit into a group, peer pressure, you do it. And I think Red Bull is not an exception in that case. We just try to sort of, you know, do silly things. And yes, Romessa, you're absolutely right. It does increase the heart rate. And that is what keeps you awake. And, unless you had like 10, 12 cans of Red Bull, I think it's still pretty safe. One or two is not going to kill you, but I would say go easy on it. So that is the emotional side to it. Sometimes we do things just because we want to fit in. We want to signal a certain status. We want to project a certain image. And this is what makes the whole process of understanding jobs or delineating jobs even more cumbersome. So basically, functional and emotional jobs, it is not easy to separate them. Okay, so most jobs, if not all jobs, have both a functional and an emotional dimension. Let me give you an example. Okay, wow, just imagine out of IBA, maybe next 10 years, CEO of, one of these top-notch multinationals, or top national company, riding this blue Bentley, Clifton area. So what job are you trying to do here? Anyone? I asked my colleague, and I'm not joking, one of my Qatari colleagues has a blue Bentley. So I asked him, yeah, exactly. Misam, absolutely emotional. And I asked him, why did you buy this blue Bentley? I mean, in Qatar, from one end to another is about 80 miles. And the longest road that you have here is about 6 miles. And it is so full of traffic that you can't go over 40 miles an hour. So why did you buy a blue Bentley? And he says, it is one of the most reliable cars in the world, never breaks down. I said, yeah, it doesn't break down because you don't go anywhere. So he was trying to bring out this emotion, this rational explanation or a functional job dimension, which obviously I disagree with. And one of the reasons you buy blue Bentley is because you want to impress people. You want to tell them, look, I've got a lot of money. Don't mess with me. I am someone special. So it's basically passion for luxury to project a certain image. Again, it's all about status signaling. As Aina said, yes, it is about status signaling. So let's not kid ourselves, because when these type of cars are advertised or promoted or marketed, mostly you evoke that emotional force within a person. Okay? So that is now, okay, no disrespect. That's a nice car. So what sort of job do you want to get done through this car? I mean, I used to have one of these a number of years ago. Yeah, this is a little bit more functional. It is one of those older models of, I think, Toyota Corolla. Very, very good car, very, very efficient, very fuel economical, affordable, absolutely. So this is more in the area of transportation, okay, functional, but still, for some individuals, maybe their father owed this car, had this car, and it's a very emotional drive for them. It's a heritage. Yeah, Misam.
It seems like Suzuki.
Is it? Okay, sorry, I stand corrected, man. I mean, this is my knowledge of cars. So I've been corrected, this is a Suzuki. But still the same argument holds correct. You can have an emotional attachment to this Suzuki. For instance, I have emotional attachment to my Ferrari. In Qatar, you must have a Ferrari in order to have some sort of a street credibility. And see, my wonderful Ferrari, I absolutely love it. Okay, and I have a lot of emotional attachment to it, even though my wife has been saying to me, come on, exactly, Arib. This is moving up that social status or social status ladder where you can draw emotionality from different jobs at different stages of your life. And I am very attached to my car. I'm not joking. I don't know. I just can't get rid of it because, this car has been with me for the last, 12, 13 years. And it's just part of me. And I'm very happy with it. Never given me any trouble. And it does what a car does, takes me from A to B. So I'm pretty okay. No comment on others. If they want to buy a blue Bentley, that is absolutely cool. No problem. Okay, so just to give you the idea in terms of what is a job. So we are going to focus on functional jobs. So here, when you're focusing on functional jobs, you have to develop something called a job map. It's very important to develop a robust, a detailed job map so that we can then have a good chance of understanding the customer need. So first of all, what is a job map? So basically, job map is looking at the job, the functional job, in a very detailed manner and breaking that functional job into sub-jobs where we have a very decent idea what the customer does when they are doing that functional job. So basically, job map means what route do they take? What method do they take? What do they do? What are the different stages when they are completing a job? Okay, so the job map here is basically understanding the different stages, the different phases that are needed in executing a job successfully. Okay, so let me give you a schematic first. So this is basically now moving into a little bit of modeling, developing a job map. And as you can see here, you have a typical job map, a schematic of a job map, or an outline of a job map that you go through different steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, da, 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 da. And then for each step, what you will see is usually there is some sort of an outcome. But what is this outcome? I'm going to explain that in a minute. But very, very quickly, an outcome is usually some sort of a problem, a challenge, a difficulty, an improvement that a customer wants so that they can do the job better. They can do the job more efficiently. They can do the job more properly. Okay? And these outcomes are basically the fundamental currency. They are the ones which will lead you towards customer needs or the opportunities that you can tap into. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to show you a real example. But before I do that, let me sort of very, very quickly paint a picture so that you are in the frame. So let's say that a household individual, such as house husband or housewife, one fine Saturday morning, they want to wash clothes using a washing machine. So here what they're doing is they are basically hiring a washing machine to do a job, which is washing the clothes. So now you, the researcher from very illustrious, well-known IBA, CED, you are the researcher, you're trying to understand, maybe whoever has hired you and they want you to go and understand, okay, go out and observe these customers and tell us how do they do this washing job and perhaps what are the possible difficulties or constraints or limitations that they're facing while they're doing their washing. So you, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed student from IBA, turn up to one of these big villas, and then you're in the washing room, and this house husband or housewife, they are basically doing the job, i.e., they are washing the clothes and you're observing it. So they start step 1, they bring the clothing basket. Step 2, they turn on the washing machine. Step 3, they start sort of loading the washing machine. Step 4, they decide on the detergent, they decide on the comforter, and then they start the cycle, they choose a cycle, and then they sort of, move away from the washing machine for the next 20 minutes, and they come back, they check the clothes, and then they see they're still dirty. So what do? Oh, we have to run another short cycle, you reload the machine, and then you come back after 15 minutes, you observe again, and then you see, okay, the clothes are okay. Then you put that into a spin, you rinse them. Okay, they're looking good. And then finally, the cycle stops, you take out the clothes. So these about 5 or 6 steps have just described how a functional job, i.e. washing clothes, is done. Now let me give you a little bit more of a specific example. And this is example which I have deliberately chosen because I did not want to take something too common. I wanted to take something a little bit specialist so that you can see the process a little bit more clearly and more well-defined. Here, I am taking an example of a carpenter, a professional joiner maybe, someone who is in construction industry or someone who makes furniture. And you want to understand how do they do their job of cutting wood as a carpenter or as a joiner, and what could be the possible needs of this individual. So here you go, you interview someone who's working in a house, someone who's working on a construction site, and their job is to either make window frames or to create, wood structures. Okay, now to do the wood cutting, these professionals, they are using what is called an electric saw. And I think those of you who play with the wood, they might know that they should be having some knowledge that these electrical saws come in different shapes and sizes, okay? And they are very serious piece of equipment. They can be dangerous. They are usually manufactured by companies such as, Black & Decker. They sort of have a line of electric saws. Murphy has a line of electric saws. And then there are some other companies. Now, you are observing this individual cutting a piece of wood. So you observe what he does. And at the end of that observation, and after observing about 20 or 30 carpenters, you sit down and you create a job map. So here the job is cutting a piece of wood by a professional, such as a carpenter, who is making wood-related structures, such as window frames, so on and so forth, or such as kitchen cabinets. And then you sort of, you sit down, you look at all the interviews, observational interviews, and then you distill those interviews, you summarize all the findings into a job map. And this is what you get. What you see in front of you. So what you say is, stage 1 was they plan the cut. They use a pencil or they use a chalk or something like that. After that, they take the saw, they adjust it. They sort of adjust the height of the blade, or they sort of make sure that the blade is properly aligned and it has the right depth. Then they start the cut. They sort of stabilize the saw and they start the cut. And then they sort of maneuver the saw. They operate the saw. That is the next stage. And they do that very diligently, very carefully. And then they complete the cut. And once they have completed the cut, there's a lot of sawdust. So what they do is they sort of clean the saw, they oil the saw, and they secure it. So basically, generally, this is the job map which is followed in cutting a piece of wood or performing that job. Remember, throughout these jobs, the whole process or the whole job map has an overriding concern. The main job, which you see at the bottom of the screen, it is to ensure safety. I.e., you don't want any sawdust in your eyes, and definitely you don't want any of your limbs missing once you have completed the cut. And you don't want any, fingers lost. So this is basically an example of a job map. And remember, this job map is result of number of observational interviews. Now, how do we turn this job map, which is basically a summary of functional jobs, into assessing, identifying customer needs, which later are turned into opportunity? So this is how it happens. So basically, all those steps usually have some sort of an outcome, or at least some of those steps have an outcome or outcomes. And these outcomes are your main source of understanding or identifying customer needs. For instance, very, very quickly, let's start with the job map for cutting the wood. Come to the first stage, plan the cut. All right, so you're a professional carpenter. You're working on a piece of wood, some big, some small. And you have to plan the cut. So basically, you have to make your measurements. All right. One thing, one desire, one need here would be to minimize time. You don't want to waste too much time because you have to make so many marks. You have to do so many measurements. If you start sort of, using a pencil, it will take you half a day. So here, one of the main needs or one of the difficulties or constraints is that it is taking too much time. So here, one of the outcomes is, again, in a standardized form, minimize the time it takes to measure. Minimize the time it takes to mark the cut or put the cut on a piece of wood. Okay, so basically, second could be maximize the clarity of the cut, so that when you are actually going on that cut, you are making that particular cut, you don't make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you will be wasting resources. So here, with each of the sub-jobs or each of the stages of the job map, usually there are outcomes. Now, these outcomes are captured when you go and talk to the people who do the job, who are experienced in that job, who have the knowledge about the job, and who are actually doing it day in, day out. So, just to give you an example, starting with outcomes are important, guys. So these outcomes, as I said, again, I repeat, these outcomes are usually in the form of a difficulty, a problem, a challenge, or an improvement that the user or the potential customer desires to perform the job satisfactorily. And they can sort of, happen. They can be occurring at different stages of the job map, as I've already shown you in cutting the wood job. So you, as an entrepreneur, stroke marketer, you must capture these outcomes, especially the important ones, especially the significant ones. So once you capture them, at this stage where you're doing the observational interviews, something else has to happen. This is not enough. This is not concrete. This is not substantial. If you sort of, just do like 300 interviews and they say, okay, I have a clear conception of what the job map is and what the problems or unmet needs or improvements are in terms of outcomes, voila, I'm there. I know what the opportunity is. No, guys, that will be a half-baked approach. This is very risky. This is not yet ready. You really, really need to take it to the next step. So after you have your job map and you have identified your outcomes, there is a process of where you have to look at those outcomes and you have to turn them into viable opportunities. So there is still some way to go. So let's start with, for instance, the first example, which is a mobile phone. So go back a few years, go back before 1979, when there was no mobile phone. And the job here was to do effective communication. What do you reckon was some of the outcomes which resulted in the creation of the first mobile phone? What were some of the constraints, difficulties, limitations that people at that time were facing, which were captured by Motorola, and they thought, we have an opportunity here. So let's introduce this Motorola Mobira Man into the market. So what do you think were some of these difficulties, constraints, or problems which some of these individuals are facing, and they could be satisfied through a mobile phone? Anyone? Come on, guys, talk to me.
Sir, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I was saying, let's say you are in 1979 or before that time, and you are a researcher with Motorola. Motorola was the company who came up with this first mobile phone, which is Motorola Mobira Man. And you are doing some research, and you are trying to understand the issue of communication. So what do you think was some of the problems, limitations, or constraints which Motorola came across, and they thought there is an opportunity here that we can launch this product into the market, which can address some of these outcomes, some of these difficulties or problems, and hopefully we have a successful product. Yeah, okay, portability issue was there, so this was big, and that issue was then taken care of over the years. Yeah, I think one thing which is important, wireless mobile, Muhammad, you're absolutely right. So when you're out of the office, how do you keep in touch with the base? So that was one of the major constraints, that the fixed line is fixed line. Once I'm away from the office, how do I keep in touch with the base? So the point I'm trying to make here is that outcomes were turned into opportunities after a thorough research into the market. Okay, there was no shortcut here. This wasn't just a lucky fluke. There was a whole process. Okay, I'm not going to go through each product. I'm just going to tell you how these products came into existence after looking into some constraints, improvements, or limitations in the form of outcomes. Okay, yeah, time limitation was one of the issues, which was again, Isha, it was taken care of over the years. Now what you have is a mobile phone which is much more superior than Motorola Mobira Man with number of features. So it's an evolution. Job map is a living process. It is in state of flux. It changes, it improves. So here, if you look at the timeline, the mobile phone that you had in 1979 and the mobile phone you have now, exactly, okay? So things change. So this is basically cement bag. The European Union imposed a constraint that you cannot produce a cement bag which is over 25 kgs. So basically this opened up an opportunity that cement bags had to be repackaged in different sizes. This is basically a blood glucose meter. And usually you had bigger blood glucose meters where you had to apply your finger to the strip which was held within the blood glucose meter. So this was the blood glucose meter where the problem was that old age pensioners or elderly was finding it very difficult to take their finger to the actual blood glucose meter. So I think this is Johnson & Johnson. They come up with a very wonderful equipment, this piece of technology, where you can take the blood glucose meter to the finger. This gives you better control. Okay, so all I'm saying here is, guys, there were outcomes, there were constraints. I mean, for example, this safety razor. And there was a problem with many young people losing moisture from their skin. So Gillette came up with this wonderful idea of adding a moisture strip to give you a more comfortable shave. So these things are, or these products are result of some sort of a limitation, constraint, or a difficulty which was expressed by the customer. Okay, guys, so let's move on. We only got 1 hour left. Now, you have done your interviews. So you have spoken to these wonderful experts or experienced individuals who have given you an insight into how they do the job. So you have basically been through these 200, 300 expert users, and you have put together your job map, and you have identified some of the key outcomes, i.e. the difficulties, constraints, or limitations they're facing. Okay, the story doesn't end here. The story goes on. Now, what you need to do, this is very, very important, is that now you have to take this research to a broader scale. So how do we do that? How do we take it to a broader scale? So basically what we do now is we conduct a questionnaire-based survey. And I'm sure many of you, in fact, all of you sitting in different institutions from different parts of the world have done, as part of your coursework, as part of your thesis, questionnaire-based survey, whether it's online, offline, using SurveyMonkey or using Google Analytics, you must have done questionnaire-based surveys. So here, in order to make sure that you are testing your outcomes with a broader market, maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 potential customers, you have to take this descriptive research approach. Okay, before I start talking about how do we do this survey, how do we sort of structure the captured outcomes into questions or statements, I just want to focus on one thing. And that one thing is the value. It keeps coming back. Value is the fundamental thing or fundamental entity that you generate or that you share as a marketer stroke entrepreneur. Now here in this case, when we are looking at needs or customer needs, guys, the needs, 90% of them fall into these 4 value drivers or value areas. And those value areas, first one is that most of us, if not all of us, there are a few bizarre people out there, but we don't like complexity. We like simple things. So one of the needs, which is very generic, most customers want it, is they want to have user-friendly products, reduce complexity. Secondly, obviously, reduce complexity. And on the other hand, please make sure you maximize simplicity. You give us more information. You give us instructions in a very simple, easy to follow way. The third point is all of us are in a hurry. I don't know where we are going, but we want to save time. We are always thinking about how can I save time here, there, and everywhere. So we are always trying to do things quickly. in most time efficient manner possible. So we are always trying to save time. And finally, I think not many of us are that adventurous. We really want the risk element, the vulnerability element to go down. Okay, so here, when you are thinking about needs, think about these areas, these 4 areas, because 90% of customers are more or less seeking value, but they're seeking their needs in these particular value drivers or value areas. Okay, now I'm going to go a little technical here, guys. Just stick with me. So how do we convert our outcomes into statements that will be part of our questionnaire-based survey? And by the way, it's a very practical model. So I'm not going to go into this intellectual way of creating a research questionnaire. I want things simple. You want things simple. All right? So let's sort of look at this in a very simplistic manner. Now, before I start sort of looking at, how do we structure the outcomes? How do we convert them into statements, which then become part of our questionnaire? This structuring of outcomes, this process involves 2 things. I've already touched on the standardization where I said, look, I am always going to start the description of the outcome or the statement as maximize or minimize. So as a good research practice, I have to follow some sort of standardization so that it doesn't confuse whoever is going to answer or respond to that questionnaire. So standardization is important. Remember, when you're making a questionnaire, you always think from the perspective of the respondent. You understand what you're talking about, but you have to make other people understand, in this case, whoever is going to respond or fill that questionnaire. So standardization is important. Simplicity is important. And in that case, when you are putting these so-called outcomes into statement format, make sure the content of those statements is simple, easy to follow, and quickly understandable. So let's sort of very, very quickly go through this structuring, standardization and content. Let's start with standardization. I'm going to fast track this because I am more than sure most of you already know this. This is just for the sake of completion. First of all, guys, remember you are marketers or you are entrepreneurs. Okay, you are identifying the need. You are not suggesting a solution here. That is for the engineers. That is for the technicians, that they create a solution in form of a product or some sort of a technology. So your outcome, your statement should be solution free. You are not here to suggest solutions. You're just here to get into or extract customer needs. Second point again, okay, your statement should be simple, unambiguous, and clear. And the third point is usually this is a mistake all of us make, that we usually roll 2 statements or 2 outcomes into one. This is called a double-barreled outcome or a statement. So don't do that because this creates confusion, because you will not know to which outcome or to which statement the respondent has answered. And this creates confusion, this creates bias, and this creates, in my view, distorted data. But okay, standardization, more importantly, and we'll go to that very, very quickly. Let's do a little bit of activity. I just want to know whether you guys have grasped it. In front of you, you have some statements based on outcomes. You need to improve them. There are some structural issues with them. So let's very, very quickly start with the first statement. Can anyone tell me what's the problem with the first statement? Minimizing the time to cut the wood and the power consumption. So what's wrong with it? Anyone?
Sir, it can reduce the quality or the.
I think here, let's sort of look at the structure for the time being. Let's not sort of see what the outcome will be. What is the structural issue here? Okay. Very, very quickly.
So I have one. Maybe we can improve the first one, minimize the time to cut the wood and the power consumption by saying that maybe increase the efficiency and the productivity of the machine to cut the wood, so that it consumes less fuel, as well as cuts more wood in lesser time, so increasing its productivity and efficiency.
Okay, I think you guys are running way ahead here. You're getting it into, I mean, you're thinking too sophisticatedly. Basically, what has here, I want you to look at the structure. Okay, structure here is that you are rolling two outcomes into one. Maximize the time to cut the wood, that is one outcome, and the power consumption, which is a totally separate issue. So to which statement is the customer answering? Is it minimize the time to cut the wood or minimize the power consumption? You got my point? So you have rolled two statements into one, and this needs to be taken care of. Okay? So it's like minimize the time to cut the wood, one statement or outcome, and minimize the power consumption, the second statement or the outcome. So don't double barrel. All right. Try the second one. Minimize the typical jerk of the blade during first contact with the wood. So what's wrong here? Look at the words. Look at the structure. Is there anything ambiguous, any derogatory statements, any subjective words which people will not understand, or they will take different meaning of that word? Look into those sort of issues. Anyone? All right, okay. I'll sort of go into it. I think it's a slightly unfair question. I think it's too sort of early to tap into those things. All right, third statement. Very, very quickly. Is there anything you feel is a little difficult in that statement? Minimize the weight of the saw to improve its maneuverability. All right, so you are going to do this with the people who are cutting wood. No disrespect to anyone. Do you think they will be able to understand the word maneuverability easily? Okay, so this is the sort of thing I want you to look at, look into. Look at the respondent and then sort of, standardize accordingly. Let me give you very, very quickly what I mean by this. First of all, double-barreled statements. Don't roll two statements into one. Avoid that. Now, second outcome, typical. What does the word typical mean? Anyone? To you, typical could be once. To me, typical could be twice. To someone else,
unusual.
Yes, it is basically a subjective word. It has different meaning to different people. So don't use something which is subjective. Whenever you have these sort of statements, make sure you're trying to use objective and specific language. Now, interestingly, jerk. So in America, if you say you are a typical jerk, what does that mean? You get the point. Okay, I heard some laughter. I'm not going to go sort of, any further with this. Please make sure you're not using derogatory words. Again, we work in an international environment. So here, things like this have to be taken care of. Maneuverability, in my view, is a slightly different word, a difficult word. So, to improve its working, to improve its performance, something more simple. Okay, so this is standardization. Now, the next point which is more important is the content of your outcome or the content of your statement. It has to be designed in a certain way. Okay, there are three important points here. When you sort of convert your outcome into a statement, the nomenclature is that it should have three components. First, the direction of improvement. So you want to minimize something or you want to maximize something. Secondly, what do you want to improve? Is it time? Is it risk? Is it efficiency? Is it cost? What do you want to improve? And the third component here is improvement for whom? So who is going to benefit from this improvement? For whom is the improvement intended? So these are the three components that you should include into your outcome statement. Now, sometimes what you will discover is they are implied. Automatically, you will know improvement for whom. Okay, let me sort of do a little activity with you guys. Again, very, very quickly, you have 4 statements here. Can anyone sort of look at statement number 1 and identify, first of all, the direction of improvement, which is easy, no marks here. What improvement, number 2, and number 3, improvement for whom? So the statement is minimize the effort it takes the user to adjust the lawnmower blade. So guys, okay, what's the direction of improvement? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, very good. Remember, guys, Mariam, the only thing I would say, yeah, minimize, that's good. This clicked in. Okay, now you guys can hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir, we can hear you.
your effort, semi-standardized, remember? Maximize or minimize. Don't use anything else, otherwise you will confuse the respondent. But that's fine. Absolutely right, minimize. Okay, what improvement? Anyone? Absolutely right, Masoom. Absolutely right. It is effort. Good, 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 good. All right, the third point, improvement for whom? Absolutely right. I think here, even if you don't say the word customer, it is more or less understood. The user or the customer, absolutely fine. Okay, so just very, very quickly, let's do the next statement because, yeah, okay, we have some time. The next statement is maximize the duration of the vacuum cleaner filter usage. All right, I'm not going to ask you direction of improvement. I think all of you know that. Can anyone tell me what improvement? Second statement. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, duration, the time, absolutely bang on. Masoom and Sami, you're absolutely right. Now here, does it say improvement for whom? Does it clearly specify? No, absolutely right, Sajwar. But then improvement for whom? Yeah, exactly. So here you don't have to say duration of the vacuum cleaner filter usage for the customer. So here, use your common sense. Yeah, it is implied for the user. Okay, guys, excellent, excellent. Okay, so let me sort of move on. So here you have the actual answers, color-coded, and I think most of you are absolutely spot on. And as you can see, the first 2 elements are very important in a statement. What improvement? And the direction of improvement. And if you have a specific user, You can also add improvement from here. Okay, good. Now the fun starts. Now we go a bit technical. Now this is where you have to create a questionnaire so that you can capture responses, and based on those responses, you will be able to identify the opportunity, especially the appealing or the lucrative area. Before we do all that, we have to rate, or we have to capture the dimensions of importance and satisfaction, which are related to each of your outcome statement. And this is what we do. How do we rate outcomes? How does a respondent express their view, give their feedback on the outcome statements? How do they feel about the need or the outcome statement that you have given them to assess? So this is what we do. Very simple. What we do is, in order to assess the outcome, in order for the customer or the user to give us the feedback, we prepare a simple questionnaire. And we prepare a questionnaire which is basically like a table. And in that table is sort of, maybe you want to assess 10 outcomes or 15 outcomes. That depends on you. This depends on the job map. How many outcomes did you capture? And which outcomes do you feel, do you sort of consider to be quite relevant and quite important? That is where your judgment as a researcher is important. So here, what you do is you prepare a simple research questionnaire. In that questionnaire, you basically have 3 columns. And in those 3 columns, the first column contains your outcome statement. Then the second column has importance, and the third column has satisfaction. Now, these statements are weighted on a scale of 1 to 10. So, for importance, the respondent will express their view in terms of whether they consider the outcome statement, i.e. containing the need, to be very important or not important at all. And if they're already using a product to do a job, they can also express their satisfaction score. And again, that satisfaction score moves on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, not satisfied at all. 10, very satisfied. Okay, now let me give these steps a graphical form. Hopefully this will make sense. So what you see in front of you is basically a research questionnaire. All right, so here on your left, you have the outcomes column. So here you will have your outcome statements, and I'll show you what an outcome statement is. So don't worry, I'll show you how the questionnaire can be developed and how it looks like, at least the basic format. And then those outcomes are ranked on a scale of importance and satisfaction. And basically, as I said, the scale here is 1 to 10. So this is basically now the start of developing your simple research questionnaire, where the outcomes that you captured through observational interviews will be taken to a wider market. And this questionnaire hopefully will be filled by 1,000 people, maybe 1,500 people, maybe 2,000 people. The more the merrier. The more respondents you have, the better will be the quality of data. And you will be able to make more informed decisions. So, okay, a little bit of mathematics, guys. And it's not, what should I say, NASA sort of status or NASA level mathematics. It's simple. Now here, let's go back. So let's say you have filled a questionnaire, or you have filled a number of questionnaires where you have importance and satisfaction scores. Excellent. So what do you do to it? Remember, we have to convert outcomes into opportunities. So we have to know whether an outcome is a good opportunity, not so good opportunity, satisfactory opportunity, or a bad opportunity. So this is where we have to do some mathematics. And the mathematics is that using our importance and satisfaction scores, we work out something called opportunity score. Now, this opportunity score is very important because this opportunity score will give you an indication whether the need that you have identified is worth pursuing, maybe holding on to, or maybe rejecting. So how do we work out the opportunity score? Simple. For a particular outcome statement or a particular need, you start with the importance score, you write that down, plus you repeat that importance score minus the satisfaction score. And you will get an opportunity score. And I'll give you an example, don't worry. In fact, I will ask you to work out the opportunity score. Can you please write down this formula or take a photo or do something like that? I'm sure most of you brain boxes can remember it. So make sure you know this formula. There is one condition here. Remember, this is a formula. This is a model. So there are certain assumptions. It is not absolutely universal. That assumption or that condition is that the sum in the bracket, i.e. importance minus satisfaction, cannot be less than 0. And the prime reason for that is that importance is the overriding factor here when it comes to need of a customer. If it's not important, it's not worth looking into. So importance is always greater, has a higher place than satisfaction. So basically, it means importance has to be more than satisfaction. This is one of the conditions on which this formula works. So wherever you have satisfaction more than importance, the sum in the brackets comes 0. That's it. You ignore it. Then you only look at the importance. Okay? So this is something that you really need to remember. Okay, so has everyone sort of noted down the formula? Okay, excellent. So let's do some mathematics, guys. If you want to charge up your calculators, your mobile phones, now is the time to do that. Okay. Let's go back to our wonderful cutting the wood job. And these are some of the outcomes which I've already shared with you. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you took them to the market in the form of a questionnaire, and this is what you got. So for instance, for first outcome, minimize the likelihood of going off track when approaching the end of the cut. This is what was the rating. Importance 9.5, satisfaction 3.2. And similarly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what the respondents told you. Now remember, these were about 400 respondents. And what you see there is average score for each outcome. Okay, guys. Tell me, statement 1, what is the opportunity score?
15.8.
Wow. Wow, wow, you guys are quick. Okay, number 2. I think I'm not going to insult your intelligence. Go on. Go on.
12.4.
Wow, 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 wow. Ramesa, I think you are... Okay, good, 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 good. I've never seen such fast fingers. Or maybe you guys are working it out in your brain. All right. Okay, now the question arises. You have these opportunity score. Can they mean something?
Hello?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
So the last part should be 9.2, right? It shouldn't be 9.1.
Oh, yeah, 0.1 से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. This is not exactly a or should I say a critical formula. But anyway, is it 9.2, guys?
Yes, it's 9.2.
All right, let me correct it then. Thanks for letting me know. Let me sort of do this right now. Because then some clever guy like you is gonna sort of say the same thing, you know. It should be, I'll do that later. Sorry guys, okay, 9.2, well spotted. Okay, so which opportunity is worth pursuing? So you have your opportunity scores. They mean something. And we need to look into that something. So how do we classify them? Now this is the crunch time, guys. Okay, I heard a sir. Go on.
The first one?
Okay, now you're sort of here, you're sort of going out on the limb, making a prediction. We need to have some sort of a proper methodology around it. All right, what is that methodology? Guys, this is the methodology. So basically, you have 4 types, 4 classifications of opportunity. One area, the first area is A, which is extreme area of opportunity. So this is where you have an opportunity score greater than 15. B, the second area of opportunity lies between 12 and 15 opportunity score, which is called low hanging fruit. C, the third area of opportunity, now we are going down in the opportunity scale, is between 10 and 12. This is what we call worthy of consideration. Wait, the market is changing. It's in a state of flux. It is dynamic. We don't know. We can't make up our mind. Maybe more time, 6 months later, 1 year later, we need to come back and see whether that opportunity score has changed. Remember, guys, as I said in the start of the session, this opportunity landscape, these needs are dynamic. They're always changing. They're always evolving. They're in a state of flux. So opportunity landscape that you plot today is not relevant tomorrow. So this is not something dead. It's not something static. It's always changing. So remember that. And finally, D outcome is unattractive. Throw it away. Anything less than 10, don't bother. Kick it out. All right. Now, very, very quickly, to have a visual representation so that you can see things more clearly, you plot, and this is not exactly a mathematical graph, guys. This is more of a plot, a rough plot. You put those 4 or whatever scores you have on what I say the opportunity landscape, which is right in front of you. So on x-axis, you have your importance. On y-axis, you have your satisfaction. And you already have your scores for opportunity. So you plot them. And what you see is there are, as I already said, 4 areas. So wherever your scores land, you make an appropriate decision. So absolutely right, the gentleman who said anything over 15 is an area of extreme opportunity, that is something that you must give the first priority. That is where your chance of getting into the market is maximized. That is a need which most customers have. And this is where you have the high possibility or probability of success. So I totally agree with you. That is where you should be hitting. Okay, I think I'm not going to ask you to redo this because you've already sort of, okay, let's do it. Very, very quickly, the X1, X2 outcomes. Can you please tell me, are they worth pursuing or should they be dropped? What should we do to them? Just give them a label. Very, very quickly.
Low hanging fruit. The first
okay.
one.
X1, okay. And X2?
Unattractive.
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent.
Worthy of consideration.
Okay, guys, you got the idea, and that is nice to know. Now I want you to play with it. Next 15 to 20 minutes, I want you to play with it. And remember what you have in very sort of, how should I say, established products which have been going on for some years. Still, there are opportunities there. It's just the issue of actually drawing the job map, capturing the outcomes, converting them into statements, and then coming up with opportunity scores. And you will be surprised, sometimes you have customer needs which are staring you in the face and you're not actually addressing them. So here, what I want you to do is, I want you to pick any one of these 4 jobs. Ironing clothes, washing clothes in a washing machine, cleaning the carpet using a vacuum cleaner, or cutting a grass with a lawnmower. Any one of those jobs. I want you to very, very quickly put together a job map, identify a couple of outcomes, and then give me your opinion in terms of, what should be the satisfaction score. Usually I do this, in a day-long exercise where not only do you sort of, put together a job map, you come up with the statements, and actually you go and test those statements, or you rate those statements using real customers. And then you come back and you report the opportunity landscape. But here we don't have that luxury, but at least let's sort of do a job map and then identify the key outcomes. And the rest, I think we won't be able to do. It won't be a useful exercise. So guys, here you go. You have the template in front of you. Choose a job and then put together in about 5 or 6 steps the job map and identify at least 3 to 4 statements. So I'm just gonna go quiet for the next 10, 15 minutes, and then we will have a collective discussion to wind the session up. And I'll just stay on the chat box if you have any questions. Yeah, wash clothes is fine. You can use Masoom, you can use the washing machine. Now just sort of think loud, think in your head, how would you do that job? 5, 6 stages, and then more importantly, the needs of the customer in terms of outcomes. What could be the problems? What could be the limitations? What could be the improvements they could be looking for? And if you want, I can add one more for the gentleman. Shaving in the morning. If you want to sort of, sort of look into that particular job, I think there will be some interesting views. So shaving in the morning, you can add that. Okay, so I mean, that's fine. You can choose any of them. I just want to sort of, initiate a discussion and you to have a little bit of an idea of how to sort of, work about creating a job map. Because if you get your job map right, you identify the outcomes, that is a very solid base. And then your survey fits in, and then you're able to capture data which gives you really good indication of opportunities worth pursuing. Okay, guys, talk to me. If any of you need any help, anything I can help you with. In fact, what I would like you to do is, if you want to show me your work, i.e., I will pass the control on to you and you can sort of go through your job map. I'll be more than happy to do that. So if you can put it on a piece of paper and then you want to talk to the rest of the guys, that would be very interesting. Yeah, that's good. Ramesa, that is good. Please put it on a piece of paper. I would love you to sort of, share it with the other sort of students, with the colleagues. So just think through the job map. What should be the process here? How would you iron clothes? What are the problems? And then, the others can give their feedback. That way you can really collect quick data here as well to improve, real-time improvement in your job map. So usually when I'm there, IBA CED, we had a wonderful session a couple of years ago where we were able to use Lego models, 3D thinking, where they were creating job maps using Lego models. And I believe you me, the amount of data, the amount of insights which were captured using 3D thinking were quite amazing. And I think, I just can't, I am always amazed, always surprised with some of the insights that students bring out. I mean, the amount of talent, intellect, IBA, new ways of thinking, really creative thinking, I would say. We have no shortage of that. And I am very impressed. Unfortunately, COVID-19 couldn't be there. Maybe inshallah next year, we can do something similar. Okay, so any paper-based models that you can share with others? Because you are coming up with the outcomes, which is fine. I just want you to come up with a job map and then plant or plot these, or at least show these outcomes related to the relevant stage for the sub-job, so that we know where the outcome is coming from in terms of, as far as the job map is concerned, where is that limitation, where is that problem. So for instance, Muhammad is coming up with minimize the stains. Yeah, that's a very, very important point. I have, how should I say, blackened quite a few of my white shirts because, when you're ironing and all these prints on the bottom of the iron, and when you are sort of, putting it on a light color, the whole damn print moves. So that's a very, very important point. So in the job map, where does it happen? And then, yeah, your job is not to find a solution, remember. Your job as a marketer is to identify the need. And then this goes to R&D or, wherever, you have a technical department or the think tank who will come up with some sort of a solution. Yeah. So Sammy is thinking about the lawnmower. All right. So minimize the effort. Yeah. Less weight, less drift, smooth movement. Yeah. The oil usage, if you're using some sort of a petrol fueled lawnmower, or if you're using sort of, I'm using, that sort of physical. We don't have a lawnmower in Qatar because we don't have any grass, but yeah, utility important, absolutely. Has to be energy efficient.
Sir, can I come up with a paper-based job map?
Yeah. Okay, I'll pass the control on to you, and then you just sort of go ahead and share it with the rest of the team. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, so Zaire is going to share his job map with the outcomes with you guys. So please have a good look at his work and then suggest any improvements, anything that he should consider apart from what he is sharing with you. So Zaire, please go ahead.
Yeah, so washing the clothes. The job is washing the clothes. that is being used. We're not supposed to use the water that is itself dirty, that will make the clothes more dirty even. Number two, maximize the quality of detergents and washing powder being used. We can use the famous ones like Ariel and Surf Excel, although we aren't supposed to use the one that are local or something that are not used previously. Number three, maximize the number of stains removed from the clothes. We should ensure the one who is washing the clothes should ensure that there's not a single stain remained on the cloth. And last one, we need to minimize the electricity that is being used by the washing machine. That's it, sir.
All right. So can you very, very quickly run through the job map? Can you sort of outline how you will approach this job in 4 or 5 simple stages? What you have described is very valid. These are outcomes. So can you just very, very quickly take us through the job map?
Should I make it, sir? Should I make it in the boxes?
Can I contribute here?
Sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah, all right. While you're doing your job map, Uzair, Areeb will talk about his model. Go ahead, Areeb.
Yes, sir. Sure.
So I was thinking about cleaning the carpet using a vacuum cleaner. So I divided it into sub jobs. So initially, I thought we would be plugging the vacuum cleaner into a wall socket, into an energy supply. Then we'll be moving the furniture places, the pieces of furniture that will be very difficult to get the vacuum cleaner under, like a sofa or something like that outside of the room. And the third sub job would be to vacuum the entire room, and 4 and 5 would be placing the furniture back, and finally number 5 would be emptying the vacuum bag. So with the outcomes that come attached with it, so we would say, in the very first step where we are plugging it into the energy supply, we would be maximizing the wire length, maximizing the wire length so that it is easier for the user. And with where we're placing the furniture outside, we would say what we minimize the size of the vacuum itself so that it's accessible everywhere. So it as much as it can be, so that minimum furniture is removed from the room. With sub job number 3, where we're vacuuming the carpet, we would say it should have maximum power suction with efficient energy use. So in that way, like minimum energy use and maximum vacuuming power. And sub job 4 and 5, sub job 4, placing the furniture back into the room, would actually depend on how small the vacuum ends up being. And sub job 5 would be emptying the bag that's place, it stays its place. So this is the job map that I derived for cleaning the carpet with a vacuum cleaner.
Areeb, that is fantastic. Would anyone like to make any comments on what Areeb has just described, the job map related to hoovering a carpet and the outcomes where I can see a few needs? Anyone? Okay, very, very quickly, Areeb. Wonderful. I liked your approach. Good job map and decent outcomes. First of all, you talked about the wire. Totally agreed. I think that's a nuisance. Remember, you have kids, you have elderly. Sometimes it could be a trip over the wire. So one need here would be that, minimize wire length or minimize wire entirely. Go wireless. Okay. Second, you talked about moving around, getting around the furniture. Again, a very, very important point.
Yes, wireless.
So wireless. Yeah, go wireless, maneuverability, able to move around, able to get under. That is very, very important. The third point, again, very, very important point. You talked about the vacuum bag and emptying it. So here, I'm sure people will say, minimize vacuum bags. Absolutely, make them disappear. Go bagless. You know, this is another area where you can then, you know, become more efficient. You don't need bags, you know, you're spending less money in terms of accessories or consumables. And finally, the fourth point you made, again, very, very important point, is the issue of noise. Minimize noise. I remember the time where the vacuum cleaner used to wake up the whole house. I think you need to put some. So reducing, minimizing noise is another one. And absolutely right, energy efficiency. I mean, these are very high consumption devices, you know, 2000 watts. So you really need to work on that as well. Okay, excellent, excellent. We have time for one more share. Anyone? Would anyone else like to share their work, talk about their work? We have 5 minutes. Come on, anyone from around the world, different part of the world, would you like to share your experience with us? Okay, in that case, if there is no one, I think I've sort of extended the last the session, so I think I need to give you a little bit of a break here. So if there is nothing else, if you have any questions, please feel free. I am here for, okay, from Pramada, okay, you have a similar iron clothes, okay, that's fine. If you want to talk about it, anything slightly different from the gentleman who shared his model, you have a few minutes. If not, then that's absolutely fine. Okay, guys, I think you had enough. And one does sort of, you know, feel the pace here in the online environment. Things do come thick and fast. So let me sort of thank all of you. It was wonderful. I enjoyed the session. Your contributions are bang on. And just before I go, I don't know whether you guys will be able to, no, you don't have the slides, you won't be able to do it. So I'll sort of, you know. So if there are no questions, Shahid Saab, I am more or less done.
Yes. Dr. Khurram, Shahid Saab is, I think he's not in right now because of some electricity issue, I think, because there are a lot of, you know, electricity issues in Karachi in different parts. So thank you so much for coming to ISS and having a great session here. We have some announcement. If you can make me host, because Shahid Saab just left, so you became the host, so you need to make me host as well.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, I've never done this before. Just guide me through it, please. How do I do it?
Can you see my name? It's Mohammed
All right.
Azmi.
So I sort of
And
go to
there,
yeah,
if you click more, you can make me host,
okay.
or co-host.
So click your name. So now you are the host or make host. Excellent. Yes. All right. Over to you, Asghar. And
Yeah,
if
Zarish, if you would like to add something.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Khurram, for joining us and giving us this really interactive session. We are really glad to have you today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, you have a good one wherever you are.
Yeah, we have another session with Dr. Khurram in next week. So all will be updated about the session. You guys have already have the schedule with you. So thank you so much, Dr. Khurram, for coming. And Zarish will tell you.
More than welcome. Okay, guys. All right. You have a nice evening, all of you, or nice morning from different parts of the world. I don't know what is what, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.
Zarish, you can take over from here, please.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I have a short announcement. So you will get your midterm exams today. We will assign you all today on the Google Classroom, or jinko nahi mile, for those we'll also post it on WhatsApp group. So basically जब उस पे जाओगे तो you'll get to know about that. तो it's दो parts हैं उसके. In the first part you have to interview an entrepreneur. ठीक है, भी उसमें गूगल ड्राइव भी की लिंक भी है. तो गूगल ड्राइव की लिंक let me share if I can. Just a minute. Yeah. So I am sharing my screen. So this link is available in on that document. So इसमें जो अपना नाम पहले लिख देना, जो फर्स्ट कम फर्स्ट बेसिस पे होगा, जिसको जिसका इंटरव्यू लेना है. Okay. Yeah, you can also interview if you have any entrepreneur in your family and your friends, so you can interview him or her also. Just write the interviewer name, the entrepreneur name and his business idea in this list, and write your name as well. अगर आप अपनी मर्जी से अपनी किसी फैमिली मेंबर या फ्रेंड का कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. क्वेश्चंस क्या पूछने हैं वो उस डॉक्यूमेंट में होंगे on that midterm exam document. Or the second part is about the business model, that is also well explained in the document. So, and the deadline for this, well, you have around couple of days. Deadline मैं announce कर दूंगी. I think Sunday या Monday तक की होगी. So you have couple of days to take interview.
It's 20th of July, Monday, 8 p.m. at night.
Okay, okay, perfect.
I'm sorry to
So there are
interrupt.
we have two options for the submission. You can submit on Google Classroom. और कुछ बच्चों के issues आते हैं, तो I have given the email address and the subject line on the on that Word document. तो email भी कर सकते हो, ठीक है? But please make sure कि whoever submitted late, there will be 5% deduction in marks. Like after every 6 hours 5% deduct होंगे marks. एक 6 घंटे किसी का लेट हुआ तो 5% deduct, 12 घंटे लेट हुआ तो 10% deduct, इस तरह से, ठीक है? So you have a lot of time to do that. Inshallah that will be done. So Asghar Saab, I am done. You may
Yeah,
take over.
I have sent reminders for today's session. We'll be taking you to the northern cities of Pakistan through some videos. Zarish, Abdullah, and Azad, who's the manager of CED, will be your host for the session. The session starts at 9 today. You have the reminder post on the main WhatsApp group. And tomorrow the class starts at 10 a.m. in the morning. So be there. We are finding some IBA students that are not taking part in the program. So we'll be marking absent, and it will reflect on your grade as well. So please try to join on time. And if you have any issue, just text on the cluster group, not on the main group, please. If you have any questions, you can ask cluster coordinators about the midterm on the cluster group as well. So I'll be assigning the midterm right now. You'll be getting it in your Google Classroom folder. So please go and check the Google, your Gmail or whatever email you have given for the Google Classroom. Zarish, I'm done. And thank you so much all for joining. We'll be closing the session and see you at 9 p.m. tonight, Pakistan time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Hafiz.
Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, sir.